Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for being here this evening. Welcome to South Oxfordshire District Council and Vale of Whitehorse District Council's Joint Scrutiny Committee. This meeting is being held live at Abbey House, Abingdon. The first item on our agenda this evening is Chair's announcements, and I'll go to you, Candida. Do we have any? I don't have any opening announcements, do I? No, thank you. Candida, will you let us know if we've received any apologies for absence this evening?
I haven't received any things. I don't think anyone else is on the way. We're quiet.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move to agenda item 3, minutes from the last meeting. The purpose of this is for me to adopt and sign as a correct record the Joint Scrutiny Committee minutes of the meeting held on the 7th of July 2025. Do I have a proposer for those minutes or any amendments?
No, I just want to ask a question about the minutes, please.
Go ahead, Councillor Snowden.
I've seen nothing in the report. We left some recommendations, like, for example, on page 8, what does on track mean? Committee asked Cabinet to be more transparent about what project timeline change. Second one is protecting and linking up green spaces. Was endorsed by the committee. It was suggested that DGT programme linked with deprivation and health data with access to green spaces. But did we get a response from?
Councillor Snowden, this relates to
just the minutes being
the Didcot Gardens Programme update and review. So the minutes themselves, you have a dispute about the accuracy of the minutes, but you're asking for some follow up on the specifics. Can we come to that in agenda? You can point it out. Any amendments to these minutes, bearing in mind Councillor Snowden's request, which we'll deal with in future. No, happy to propose. Thank you, Councillor Foxall. Is that seconded? Thank you, Councillor Backstone. So I will accept as an accurate record these minutes.
And everyone's okay.
Oh, Becky, I don't need to vote.
Okay,
is everyone okay with these minutes as an accurate record? Thank you. We now move on to item 4, declaration of interests. Do any councillors present this evening have a declaration of disclosable pecuniary interest or other registrable interests and non-registrable interests or any conflicts of interest in respect of items on tonight's agenda? Yes, Councillor Cook.
I don't know if it is a conflict of interest, but I'm thinking of focusing quite a few questions on the SEND side of things with the Local Government Reorganisation. And I have a son who is in the SEND programme, situation, control, whatever it's called.
Thank you for declaring that, Councillor Cook. We'll go to Nick Bennett. Nick, are you able to provide guidance, please?
Yes, Chair, happily. So the question on an interest is if there's a financial advantage. That wouldn't apply in these circumstances, it seems to me, even if there were relevant issues, they say for example in grants to a school that your young child was at, they will be dealt with separately. I think in a general debate of this kind, I'm perfectly comfortable to advise the councillor to simply engage. Having made the declaration, we'll treat it at the very strongest as an other interest, and therefore one on which he can both speak and vote.
Thank you, Nick. Thanks, Councillor Cook. So we move on to, I beg your pardon, Councillor Gregory. Good evening.
Hi. I am the Cabinet Member for Public Health, and I don't know if I need to declare an interest at Oxfordshire County Council for the Community Safety Partnership. Also, I am on the Cabinet at Oxfordshire County Council, so again, from the LGR perspective, I'd like to declare an interest there.
Thanks, Councillor Gregory. And Nick Bennett, Head of Legal and Democratic, pops up again. Thank you, Nick.
I earned my keep in the end. Thank you, Chair. So I think I've covered this in recent meetings, that the agreement of all the monitoring officers is that there is no, in Oxfordshire, is that there is no clash preventing the debating in 2 different locations. Some members have approached me for individual advice if they're on, for example, a cabinet situation at one and not at the other, for example, and I don't think you've done that, Councillor. But what I have emphasised in the broader sense is the need to show consistency and care not to bind both organisations, and it's sensible to be extremely cautious on what you speak to if there's going to be a conflict between the position between the two bodies. I would say if you're in real concern that there's going to be a clash of that kind, then you probably should sit out of that part of the debate, or the debate on that item today. But that seems unlikely based on the position that have been adopted by myself and the other Oxfordshire monitoring officers. If there was a concern and you wanted to stop the meeting and give me a telephone call, then Candida has my telephone number, and you can call me on my mobile.
Thank you, Nick. Thanks, Councillor Gregory. Are there any other?
Well, the same one, but
you've heard the
clearly
advice.
hearing the answer.
Great. Thank you very much, Councillor Roberts. So now we can move on to agenda item 6, public participation. Do we have any members of the public who have registered to speak this evening?
Nobody is registered.
Okay, thank you very much. Agenda item 7, work schedule and dates for joint scrutiny meetings. We are asked to review the scrutiny work schedule, and please note, although the dates are confirmed, the items under consideration are subject to being withdrawn, amended, added to or rearranged without further notice. Would anyone like to speak to the work schedule? Item 7. No, I'm sure you're all aware that should there be an item that you would like to raise and have added to the work schedule, please do get in touch with either myself or Councillor Foxall, and we'd be very happy to discuss with you any potential new items for this committee. Agenda item 8, update on previous recommendations from the Joint Scrutiny Committee. And Councillor Snowden, did you want to sort of restate your concerns? Thank you.
I just wanted an update from, we asked, we've obviously had a meeting where we missed it as well. So this is like 2 meetings past. I wondered what update. We asked a question, we had a lot of problems with on track because it wasn't very specific what on track meant. It could be years delay or whatever. And also, I was very concerned about linking. The report was very good and detailed, showing us where health issues were. What the cabinet were going to do to help make sure that the areas most deprived got the most green spaces, etc.
Thanks for raising that, Councillor Snowden. And your concerns have been picked up in the informal note that was circulated by Candida last Friday.
Right.
I don't know if you received that, but in particular, project timelines, what does on track mean? And as you rightly point out, committee asked Cabinet to be more transparent about when project timelines change. And there's been a response to that from the Cabinet, which is that a new smart dashboard was launched at the September community update meeting and agreed on the 20th of October by the DGT Advisory Board. Further action has been taken. You mentioned linking health data to green spaces. That's also been addressed in this particular informal report. I'm sure that if you've still got concerns, we'll be very happy to take them back to the Cabinet. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, Chair, can I interrupt? Could you ask Tony to pop his microphone up?
Oh, yeah. Councillor Morgan, Tony. Good evening, Tony Morgan. Would you mind turning off your microphone, please?
Apologies, yes.
Not at all. Thank you. Yeah.
Can I ask the chair about possibly having a tracker system for this so that we can see the recommendations in the past? So if they're not answered, they're amber, and when they have been fully answered, they go green or something like that.
Red, amber, green. Candida, can that?
I've actually set up a track already. I have sent it round. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to see it, but I intend to put all these updates as links into a tracker so you can click on them and see the progress of everything. And then any other follow-on questions I can liaise with officers and get other responses. So I am doing that, and it's a work in progress. I'm not sure about red, amber, green, if it will be helpful, but if I can incorporate that in a helpful way, then I will, if that's okay. So
That'd be the best way, yeah.
yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Snowden. Does that help?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. And thank you, Candida, for circulating this update from DGT as well. Councillor Snowden, if you have any further questions, please do let us know. So with that item concluded, we now move on to the first substantive item on this evening's agenda, which is the South and Vale Community Safety Partnership performance report. And to introduce this report, I would like to invite Cabinet members Georgina Heritage and Helen Piggles. Georgina Heritage from South Oxfordshire, Helen Piggles from Vale of Whitehorse. And I believe we also have officers here this evening, Diane Foster.
And we've also got Catherine Doherty and Karen Brown as well on the team, officer team.
Good evening to you all, and thank you very much for joining us.
Yes.
And we have some guests as well. And could our guests please introduce themselves for this item? Thank you.
We've got Wendy.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Wendy Percival. I'm a Chief Inspector with Thames Valley Police, and I look after the partnerships for the whole of Oxfordshire Local Command Unit.
Thank you for joining us this evening.
You're welcome.
Nicola Bell as well.
And we've got Nicola Bell joining us as well. Welcome, Nicola. Thanks for being here.
Good evening. So I'm Nicola Bell and I'm the Modern Slavery and Exploitation Coordinator for Oxfordshire.
Thank you very much. Who are our Cabinet members going to be introducing this report?
I'll introduce.
Great. Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Heritage.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, committee. For those who don't know me, I think I probably know most of you around the table, but I'm the Cabinet Member for Communities at SODC, and I work closely with Councillor Helen Pighills at Vale. I recently took over as Chair for the Community Safety Partnership meetings. So on behalf of South and Vale Community Partnership, I'm here to present the annual report to you. I'm joined this evening, I think the names have already been mentioned, but we do have some very knowledgeable officers with us. We have Diane Foster, Karen Brown, Catherine Doherty, and Wendy Percival and Nicola Bell, who are all experts in the field of the Community Safety Partnership and our priorities. So community safety partnerships are made up of representatives from the police, local authorities, fire and rescue, probation and health authorities. These responsible authorities work together to protect local communities from crime and to help our communities feel safe. So the report in front of you sets out the work that I'm going to call it the CSP if you don't mind, but it sets out the work that the CSP has undertaken in 2024 to 25 to agree the priorities. The community safety report has two recommendations. So the first recommendation is to note the progress that South and Vale CSP made in 24 to 25 in delivering its priorities and its statutory functions. The report provides information on both the statutory duties that the partnership is required to deliver and the added value work that it carries out in local communities. So to clarify, the statutory duties include the need to develop and publish a community safety partnership plan, responsibilities relating to antisocial behaviour, and some specific duties to protect vulnerable people. And this includes raising awareness of and reporting to the Secretary of State any person identified as a victim of modern slavery. Statutory duties also include carrying out a domestic abuse related death review, which was previously known as a domestic homicide review, DHR, where a person has died as a result of abuse, violence or neglect by a relative, intimate partner or a member of the same household. Since their introduction in 2011, we've completed 7 DHRs in South and Vale, and we are currently carrying out a further 4 domestic abuse related death reviews. The added value work of the partnership includes providing funding to support victims of domestic abuse and funding to help secure victims' homes to enable them to feel safe. The coordination of joint tasking meetings to maximise partnership working and to make the best use of resources. Carrying out environmental visual audits to resolve and prevent antisocial behaviour in our communities. And funding community-based projects that aim to improve resilience, for example, projects that divert young people away from committing violent crime or from becoming victims of crime. So recommendation 2 is to ask you to support the CSP's view that the 25 to 28 plan will continue to deliver core priorities and statutory functions and focus on these on our 4 key priorities. Our 4 key priorities are domestic abuse, modern slavery and exploitation, serious violence and antisocial behaviour. And the Community Safety Partnership Plan takes into account the aims of the Police and Crime Commissioner's plan to reduce crime and catch those who offend. So my own experience of this partnership is that our quarterly meetings offer an excellent multi-agency opportunity to share information and updates on the priorities and to work together on some really important initiatives. As well as Southern Vale, the partnership is made up of OCC services like public health, youth justice, adult social care, children's social care, fire and rescue, plus TVP, Thames Valley Probation Services, Sovereign and SOA Housing, the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner, and the Bucks, Oxon and West Berks Integrated Care Board. It's hugely valuable to our communities to have all these bodies in one room to report, review and discuss this important work on a regular basis. So thank you, and we welcome any questions or feedback.
Thank you very much, Councillor Heritage. I wonder if any of our guests this evening would like to add to Councillor Heritage's excellent summary before we move into questions. No? Do any members? Oh, go on. Hello.
Sorry, no, I was just going to say no, I don't have anything to add.
Thanks, Diane. Thank you. Not at all. Do any members of the committee have questions for the Cabinet members or for our guests this evening about this item? Ian, go ahead.
Anyone else want to go first? I want to be just me speaking.
Your hand was up first. You go ahead.
Okay, well, first of all, very good report. I'm grateful for that, and it's wonderful to hear everyone working together because it clearly helps. I did quite a bit of research because of some of the. I wonder if you could, like, the income summary gives no indication of if the money's gone up this year, down this year, where it came from. I did a bit of research. So
Yes.
If it does,
it does. It should show where it comes from, because the money.
It says partnerships fund, but I mean, I've researched that. That's the Police and Crime Commissioner department, is it?
So we get funding from the Police and Crime Commissioner, and we also we can apply for fund. There is some funding that's provided from government as well. I believe that's for domestic violence.
Well, yeah, Home Office do some safer street funding, don't they? Is that from them? It would be easier to have it there, and whether it's going up or down, because this is such good work.
Yeah.
I don't know whether we've got more money for this year compared to last year, and is it secure money? Is it guaranteed for 5 years or something like that? You know, that was my concern when I was reading that.
Yeah, I think
a lot of these schemes are very, very good. Which is another question I'm asking you.
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. I mean, there's a grant provided by the Police and Crime Commissioner to upper level local authorities, and then we apply via OCC, which is allocated as the report states. It's on evidential need really, and you know how it links to the shared priorities. But I do take on board that there isn't a comparison if that's what you're looking for in future reports.
Yeah, well, the 109,000 for domestic abuse, for example, is that guaranteed year on year, or is that, you know, have we managed to get more funding this year?
I think I might have to refer to one of the officers in terms of how consistent or guaranteed that's likely to be.
I think we may have some response from one of our guests. Oh, Karen Brown, hello, and Diane is there as well. Are either of you able to help Councillor Snowden help us with this matter?
Yes, in relation to the domestic abuse grant, that comes from central government and it's part of the annual settlement that we should be getting each year. So we don't find out how much to be getting until December, but that has increased. There has been an increase on year with that. I think Karen can provide more information about the general CSP funding and the partnerships fund.
Yeah, so with relation to the partnerships fund, all across Oxfordshire, we all bid into this funding for exactly what Georgina said, where the need has been identified. So we can see that funding pot every year goes up and down. And I would say that we are probably on the same amount of funding of what we were allocated for last year, but it is very much a needs basis.
Yeah, it was up 15%. Yeah, okay.
Thanks, Councillor Snowden. Thank you for that, Karen. Could I just ask a quick follow-up question? As regards the certainty, for example, the 109,000 for domestic abuse support, I think that also helps to fund an officer.
Yeah.
So I guess my only question relating to that is, this officer is clearly doing very good work, very valuable work. How can we ensure that that person has a job from year to year?
You are right, that post is funded through the grant money, but it's something we try to budget for each year, and when we do the budget setting process to see whether we are able to continue that post should that funding cease.
Thanks, Diane. That's reassuring. Thank you. Councillor Snowden, did you have any further questions? Are you happy with that?
I'll come back after Councillor.
Fine. I think we had Councillor Gregory. Thank you. Go ahead.
Oh, cool. Thank you. I've got a couple of questions, if that's okay. I wanted to say thank you for the report. I liked the Ask for Angela campaign, and that there's also kind of like a mate that's not okay. I like that. I'm just wondering if there's anything that we can also do to target potential perpetrators. So obviously you're asking people to call it out, and then also people who feel victim of that. Is there a way that we could also incorporate something along the lines of this behaviour is, this kind of behaviour is not okay, and outline what could potentially what those behaviours could potentially be, and they might think it's okay, but actually, do you know what? No, it's not.
Do you mean what the behaviours look like, if you like? So we have the campaign Ask for Angela, as you know, which was in conjunction with the Don't Let It Slide campaign, which is more sort of that's targeted at men really, and men calling out men and being aware of this sort of behaviour. But do you mean a campaign to sort of highlight the types of behaviour to look for?
And also, like, you might think that these behaviours are okay, but they're not. So not necessarily saying call it out, but also if you
see this,
or if you think this is okay, because there will be people out there who think that behaviour is okay, and unless they're told that it's not, sometimes they might not know.
So it's recognising harmful behaviour. I think that's a fair comment, and I think that's something we can definitely take back to officers in the Community Safety Partnership.
Great. I had one more question, if that's okay. Just on the domestic abuse piece, just along around the fact that there's a lot going on with victims and perpetrators who are at high risk. Is there anything that we can do which is more of a campaign for a broader campaign? Because obviously we're not talking to perpetrators until they've done the perpetrating.
So I think if you look at the figures of the home security interventions, for example, you can see that there are kind of stages of kind of very high risk. We have to intervene within 3 days to potentially change locks or introduce some safety measures. But I suppose, are you saying, because really that's kind of based on the victim contacting us, and then the assessment of whether or not they're high risk. So more of a longer term campaign.
Longer term. broader. So it's an example that I can think of is when I had my children, I was asked by the midwife on a number of times about domestic abuse. My husband was never asked that. So it's kind of
don't wait for it to happen.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
So what can we do to, maybe stop things from happening before they happen?
Prevention rather than
I think also we're doing a lot with the charity Reducing the Risk, who are going around. Obviously, they help victims, but they're also doing a lot of raising of awareness and recruiting friends of the Reducing the Risk charity. So those people are being trained really to recognise if their friend says something a little bit odd, that they can then, ask the right sort of questions, and they're trying to get more people involved in this in different communities. So more people across society in general are aware. They actually told me that they were trying to get to talk to women's groups and community groups in different places across the county, and they approached this village. I don't think it was WI, but it was a little group in a small village, and they were told, "Oh no, we don't have things like that in our village." And I think that's important. This is an important message to get out. Because domestic abuse is no respecter of people's position or perceived position in society.
I think, just to add, that's absolutely right. Thank you, Helen. Just to add to that, I think a lot of the outreach work that's been done in schools as well is very important, because we're getting that message across at a younger age.
Chelsea's story.
Wendy Percival from Thames Valley Police, you have your hand up. I'm conscious that you've had your hand up for a while. I apologise. Did you want to jump in on this point, Wendy?
Hello, no, that's no problem at all. I can certainly help answer some of those questions. So you're absolutely right. Raising the awareness and perhaps addressing some of the long-standing cultures that we have perhaps seen around what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. So there has been for a couple of years now large pieces of work going on in the schools, whether that is one of the schools officers, which is one of my team, taking assemblies or going through lesson plans with the students, but we've also had funding from it was some sort of cliff edge type VORG funding that we were able to secure for theatre groups to go into schools, which is around raising that awareness of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. I believe there's also conversations ongoing around a public space theatre production, just raising awareness to members of the public around, catcalling and these kind of things, that it's not acceptable. We've also got a vigilant team that works within our rape and serious sexual assault unit, and this team, their priority is making our spaces safe. And they will deploy covert officers into perhaps our nighttime economy, or where there might be heavy footfall with, say, females who may be vulnerable through intoxication, for example. And they've had specialist training to identify predatory behaviours. Not all the time, but in a lot of the cases, it's males. That's not to say that females could be, predators as well, but maybe around children, for example. But there's a lot of work going on there, and the Violence Against Women and Girls DV post that we spoke of, where Diane just briefly came in, that officer is actually now working alongside our rape and serious sexual assault team, just to try and overlay some of the work that our team are doing, that sort of safer spaces, to make sure that we're all aligned and sort of going in the right direction. And we have obviously a little bit more data that can help make the CSP a little bit more informed. you're right, Helen. It is the WIs that we have been reaching out to raise awareness of domestic violence and what coercive control is, because that's a relatively new piece of legislation and not widely known, although I think it's becoming more so. As you say, reducing the risk and bystander training is something that we're rolling out. So a lot of security staff, taxi drivers, for example, are all receiving bystander training. And what that effectively means is, you know, if you're to see a couple perhaps having an argument, how can you escalate that safely? How, you know, what can you do? Perhaps, you know, either filming it, ringing 101, 999, whatever that sort of situation may be. But there's a lot of work going on with the universities in Oxford, because we have obviously lots of students coming into Oxfordshire. And I know for South and Vale, obviously, you don't have as many secondary education establishments. But I think the good thing is it's sort of spreading that word amongst that next, you know, the younger generation of actually what is appropriate behaviour and what isn't. So lots of sort of things going on in the background. Don't know if that helps.
Thanks, Wendy. Councillor Fox, you were next. Thanks for your patience. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I am every year when we have this, or every time I see this report, I'm staggered by how much is done with so little money relatively across so many different areas. And so I'd really like to thank the team, everyone involved, and the partners for all of the work that's done for so many vulnerable people in so many ways. But my question is, kind of following on from what we've just been talking about, I was interested that you go to WIs. I was wondering actually whether baby and toddler groups would be a good forum to talk particularly to women about domestic abuse, coercive control, because these are often women. And I used to run a toddler group, and we had some very difficult conversations, because it's a place where you go for tea and biscuits. Sometimes it's the first people you see when you've had a baby. So I wonder whether those groups could be considered as part of a kind of group, rather than perhaps the WIs who perhaps attract a slightly different demographic. It was interesting what you said about the response you'd had. So I wonder about that. I think that'll do for now. I have more questions, but specifically
I think any recommendation of how we can access vulnerable people is always going to be a good recommendation, but I don't know if any officers would like to comment on that.
Diane, go ahead.
Yes, I was going to say yes, thank you. That's a really good suggestion, and we will take that forward and explore whether that's something we can do, not just in Southern Vale but also across Oxfordshire through the coordinator that works across Oxfordshire. But yes, also I was going to say that our the Southern Vale officer, the domestic abuse officer, has also recently given some presentations, or is due to give some presentations very soon to some other community groups on acceptable behaviour and recognising the signs and things like that as well. So we are definitely, it's an area we are still working on, and always trying to get the messages out further, improve on that.
Thanks, Diane.
I think that was a really good suggestion. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Fox. Julie Roberts, you were next.
I also used to run a toddler group, and I would second that, because we picked up not only abuse of the parents, but abuse of the child as well. And it's quite interesting conversations. You're right, just rolled out. And the point I was going to make is on the team, you had a probation officer. We're talking very much about prevention and setting that, but also there's a huge piece of work we're doing with after somebody has offended, being able to get them to be aware of how to correct their behaviour and how to change. Not something that's often very easy, but used to be done quite a lot in the probation service. But I'm aware that probation services have suffered alongside all the rest of us with the lack of funding. So I wondered about where that angle of re-offending, if you like, has got within this service.
Diane, did you want to jump in on that point? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I was just going to say there is a project called the Drive Project that does target, it's working with perpetrators. I'm not sure if Wendy or Karen are able to provide some more information about that. Sorry to pass it to. But I know there is work ongoing, but I'm not as familiar with detail as maybe others here are.
I wonder if our representatives from Thames Valley Police might want to jump in on this point regarding direct liaison and support for offenders to help prevent reoffending. Hi, Wendy. Thank you.
Hi there. Yeah, so exactly as Diane says, the Drive project works with perpetrators. I believe it is voluntary. It's not part of a condition, for example, and it's more of that holistic problem solving. There was also a large piece of work that was completed just prior to that, which is police looking at sort of the wider and deeper pictures that sits behind offending. So what we were finding is that actually, you know, when people are arrested is quite often a byproduct for lots of other trauma and other issues that perhaps that person themselves has experienced, or it's perhaps themselves has been brought up in a domestic abuse environment, and the police are still looking at actually, yes, we can put the people in front of the courts that will, you know, will give the victim some respite and hopefully some longer term measures, but actually we need to start looking deeper around the behaviours of people and what drives it. Is quite complicated and not something we can just wave a magic wand to try and fix, but there's definitely a shift into, okay, you know, the law has been broken and there is one element to that. However, there's a lot of holistic work and support that needs to be done with the perpetrator and children that are also in that environment. So lots of, you know, changing the voice of the child is something that we now capture religiously, which perhaps wasn't done so a few years ago. So that's recognising that, you know, children that may be upstairs whilst there's a domestic incident perhaps going on downstairs, you know, those children are equally victims. They will be seeing and hearing so much more than perhaps what we all, you know, thought that they were hearing. So yeah, lots of work ongoing there.
Thank you, Wendy. Councillor, oh, are you okay, Judy? Was that
that's
brilliant? Thank you for that. Councillor Snowden, you had a question.
Yeah. Keep wanting to press the microphone. I didn't run a toddler club. I didn't run a toddler club, but nor do I relate to much of what's written on here. So I find it very difficult because I've had a very privileged life and I see it more and more with the residents that I help. Sometimes, obviously, the perpetrators don't go to prison, and the victims can often return to those perpetrators. And I gave some of my council funding once to a men's mental health charity who work with men. And when I went up to see how was money being spent, I found out that most of the men there commit domestic violence. And I was like, I've given money to this, you know, and I'm not happy about this now. And you are helping the victims by helping break the cycle and so forth. So I was looking through at the groups that we help and that. Do we do any work with men to see if we can break the cycle that way? Because, you know, I've got one family working at the moment where he is in prison, but most of the time they don't go to prison, do they? Unfortunately.
Good point, Councillor Snowden. I wonder, Diane, or any of the other officers here this evening might be able to shed some light. Thanks, Diane.
I don't know if Karen's, sorry, I wasn't sure if Karen's going to say about Caroline. I'm not too sure. I think I'm not sure if that's covered by the Drive project that Wendy mentioned.
Yeah.
Has Karen got some more information to say on that one?
I was just going to mention the MARAC and the MATAC. So the MATAC, sorry for all these abbreviations, that's the multi-agency tasking conference for the perpetrators. It's identifying them early. That's what we do with the MATAC programme, and so that it's there to prevent them becoming, once we know that they are, I suppose, in that cycle of, the chances are if they have assaulted or abused somebody else, that we try and break that cycle, so that to prevent anyone else experiencing that with another new partner, and that applies for men as well as women. I also know that our Oxfordshire Domestic Abuse Service, they will support men. It isn't just open to women as well. So we have services across our area that we do work closely with when we do know that we have victims that are male and are suffering from abuse.
I was just going to add, if I may, that in the report it does mention that the community safety team provides domestic abuse training courses, which are provided by Oxfordshire safeguarding boards to all staff to support them when dealing with victims and perpetrators of domestic abuse. So I'm not suggesting more work can't be done or shouldn't be done, but there is an understanding that the perpetrators need addressing as well as the victims.
Yeah. Thanks, Councillor Heritage. Thanks, Councillor Snowden, for that. Councillor Foxhall.
Thank you, Chair. One area of slight concern that I have, but perhaps you could explain more what's happening, is in the area of security works referrals. When you look at the graphs of the different quarters per year, the trend isn't so obvious, but when you actually look at the total referrals per year, we are now at the point where there's been a steady decline year on year in the number of referrals, to the point where it's around, in 4 years it's nearly halved. And I just wondered if that trend has been looked at. But also, second, related specifically to security works, is I was a little bit concerned that there was a number of cases where work wasn't done because permission had not been received from landlords, and I wondered what powers or authorities there are to actually do that work, whether or not landlords want it done. Thank you. Sorry, that was the chart I was referring to.
Yes,
the top
I've
of page
got it
16
here
on our report back.
Yeah.
Paragraph 15.
Again,
Karen, thank
yeah,
you. Sorry,
might need to refer to an officer.
You're absolutely correct. The number of referrals have decreased over the years, and it can be due to people investing in their own security, so that we tend to offer some covert cameras for victims to help them feel safe in their own homes, and we have seen an increase in victims purchasing their own Ring doorbells and other devices in order to keep themselves safe. If we did feel that a property needed high level of security works, like, for example, like a sanctuary room, we wouldn't encourage that. We would be looking to rehouse them. So the works that we do undertake are very much a sort of a level which enables people to feel safe only if that risk is at that level for that to happen. I hope that answers that question. We have promoted the scheme. We continue to promote the scheme. It is on our district council web pages, so people can self-refer. It's just that we are seeing numbers have declined. And when we do look back, I should say as well, I suppose COVID at the start of this, we can see those numbers from COVID where numbers had increased over COVID. So maybe that might be the reason, but it is something we can take away and look at that trend.
Thanks, Karen.
For this second question, can you just remind me again what the second question was about?
It was related to whether there's any powers to enforce, make sure landlords can't just say, sorry, I don't want you to do that on my home.
Absolutely.
When there's a clear need in terms of protecting someone.
Yeah, I mean, again, if we struggle where we have had referrals that have come from, and namely the majority of our referrals will come from the police, if we have struggled with landlords, we will look to carry out that work ourselves and then look to recharge them for the costs that have been occurred. But we, you know, again, it depends on that risk, but we are quite forceful. And as you can see with the referrals that we've got quite a few housing associations that have actually, you know, signed up to, I suppose we have got our protocols in place with our housing providers, and they are signed up and they have agreed for this work to undertake this work. So we do have those pledges in place.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the availability of Ring doorbells is such an obvious answer. So yes, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Fox. Or Councillor Snowden, you had another question. Go ahead.
Do apologise. So my youngest daughter actually works at Thames Valley Police, and it's a community safety partnership, and I was surprised not to see any reference to our new CCTV cameras in Didcot, because obviously they play a huge help in crime prevention, but also convictions. And I wondered also, I realised that they've not yet been signed up to or transferred over to the police. Is there a reason why that hasn't happened yet, and how close we are to doing that?
That is in progress, but it's taken quite a long time to sort out the legal agreements and checking that all the different districts are happy with the transfer. I'm not quite sure where it's at now. I don't know, Diane.
Cameras to the police.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Go ahead, Diane.
Yes, we're still negotiating with the police over the terms of the agreement, but we are trying to make progress with it as quickly as we can.
Thank you.
And I do receive updates regularly, but my understanding is that we're doing our part, but we're having to chase.
Thank you. I had a couple of very quick questions. I suppose it goes without saying, because this has been raised at previous meetings where we've looked at reports from the Community Safety Partnership, but I just wanted to double and triple check that where people are referred to the Community Safety Partnership, whether because of modern slavery or because of domestic abuse, that there is no onward liaison with the Home Office relating to their immigration status.
I'm not going to pretend to be able to answer that one.
I wonder if Diane, or perhaps if any of our representatives from the police could shed some light on that.
Sorry, could you repeat the question again? I didn't quite catch the full.
I just wanted to check that when a person is referred to the Community Safety Partnership or comes into contact with the partnership, whether that be because they are a victim of modern slavery or in a domestic abuse situation, that there would be no onward referral to the Home Office if that person's visa status or eligibility to be in the UK was in question.
I don't have an answer to that. I'm not sure if Nicola has something in terms of the modern slavery side things to answer. Just put the camera on.
Yeah, so in terms of modern slavery, we don't make any referrals onto the Home Office because the Modern Slavery Act clearly states that everything comes secondary to the slavery. So we wouldn't make any referrals onto immigration whilst we're dealing with modern slavery.
Thank you for that. And I think that our police officers were going to mention something to do with domestic abuse. I assume the same thing applies to victims of domestic abuse. Thanks, Wendy.
Yeah, so as Nicola said, I mean, Nicola, I was just wondering if this would be where our NRM referral would that not inadvertently go in if we were to submit one?
Yeah, so if we submit an NRM, which is the National Referral Mechanism, which is the government scheme where you refer potential victims of modern slavery, but the NRM is just looking at, are they a victim of modern slavery? And as I said, the Modern Slavery Act clearly states immigration, even some of the criminal side, has to come secondary whilst you're dealing with them as a victim. If someone is in the NRM and they haven't got a status in the UK, they are not allowed to be deported or anything looked at whilst they're in the NRM, and that can sometimes take 2 to 3 years while they're making those decisions.
Thanks for that, Nicola. Wendy, I wonder, regarding domestic abuse then, clearly that's not within the protection of the Modern Slavery Act. Does the same thing apply to victims of domestic abuse? No.
I don't think it does. I can certainly go away and ask the question. I haven't ever heard of that. We would make an automatic notification to say that we'd perhaps taken a statement from a victim or but I can certainly find out.
Thank you. I think that would be something worth looking into, because we may have people who are victims of domestic abuse whose eligibility to be in the UK might be questionable, but the same concerns, I guess, apply as with modern slavery. And I had another question as well, and this would be one for our officers relating to this excellent domestic abuse support officer. White Ribbon Day is on the 25th of November. I haven't seen anything about White Ribbon Day. We haven't received anything as councillors to publicise White Ribbon Day, and I wonder if there are any plans to to do anything public in our communities to raise awareness around White Ribbon Day and domestic abuse.
We usually do.
Yeah.
You've been active.
Yeah, we have done it for the last couple of years. We've had the White Ribbon Walk on White Ribbon Day, actually in Abingdon, which started with just officers, and more people have joined in.
But the point is, you haven't seen it.
As councillors, we haven't received anything to my knowledge about it. Wendy, you were going to jump in. Thank you.
Yeah, funny enough, we were just going through our plans. So within the police, we have various departments. I sit on with the neighbourhood team. So the neighbourhood teams will be across Oxfordshire doing some events, raising that awareness, publicising. So, for example, some people are doing walks late in the evenings with our street pastors and community guardians. Other areas, for example, are doing charity runs to raise money on the Just Giving page. But then there'll also be the educational piece as well, which is, the leaflets, the flyers, the awareness. And I know certainly from the police, we're planting we're planting a tree. And so there are things coming out. Perhaps we've just not been so good with raising that awareness with our comms.
Thanks, Wendy. Karen, you were going to jump in as well. Thank you.
I was just going to say we do have some plans around White Ribbon. We are working with the comms team on that priority. We the theme is Speak Up. So we are at the moment looking at our posters that we had put out last year, and how we're going to be encouraging men to speak up and to end this violence against women. There are plans. We're just working on them, and we'll get them out to you as soon as we can.
Great, thank you very much. It's on the calendar, I'm told, by both of you. Thank you, Karen. Councillors, did anyone have any further questions or comments relating to this item? I think we've given it a good discussion, and there's been some really excellent suggestions made. I want to thank the Cabinet members, and I want to thank the officers and the representatives from Thames Valley Police, and indeed everybody who's involved in this extremely worthwhile and excellent value for money partnership that delivers real benefits for our communities. So thank you all for this excellent report. We are being recommended to note the progress that the Southern Vale Community Safety Partnership made in the 2024-25 year in delivering its priorities and statutory functions. We're also being recommended to support the Community Safety Partnership's view that the 2025 to 2028 plan will continue to deliver core priorities and statutory functions and focus on the following 4 priorities: domestic abuse, modern slavery and exploitation, serious violence, and antisocial behaviour. We've had a number of suggestions made this evening. Is it worth me going through those, or they can just be noted
They will
as,
be minuted. If you want to summarise, it's up to you. They will be in the minutes.
the suggestions and recommendations made this evening to be in the minutes. So, do we have a proposer and seconder for these recommendations? Councillor Foxall proposing, Councillor Backstone seconding. Is that agreed? Yep, that's agreed. Thank you, councillors. And thank you very much, Georgina and Helen. And thank you to all our guests this evening for that item.
Thank you for your excellent questions and suggestions.
So, with that item now concluded, Councillor Foxall, sorry, did you?
Sorry, could I just request that we have a 2-minute break
Yes.
between these items?
Yep, it
Okay.
is now 7:27 and we'll have a comfort break and we'll reconvene here at 7:30 p.m. Thank you, councillors. Welcome back, and thank you to our guests joining us online. We'll now move on to agenda item 10, which is the full proposal for local government reorganisation. And to introduce this item, I would like to invite the leaders of South Oxfordshire District Council and Vale of Whitehorse District Council. We have Councillor David Rowan from South and Councillor Bethia Thomas from Vale. Welcome, and I invite you to introduce this item.
Thank you. Apologies to anyone who heard this the first time around when we introduced this to council, but I'll go through it again, and I'll go through my introduction, and then Bethia can add anything she said. So I would like to propose that the council supports the recommendation to cabinet to submit a proposal for 2 unitary authorities covering Oxfordshire and West Berkshire. The proposal included in the pack, and it is very long and detailed, so I'd like to thank the officers who put so much time into getting it to this stage, and I will set out what I think are the main reasons why we should support this proposal rather than either of those put forward by the county or the city. Firstly, let's be clear what this document is. It is not a policy document setting out the strategic plan for the new council. That is for the new council to decide, and the best way to influence that is to get elected to it. This document is a response to an invitation from government and establishes a framework for a new council in line with the criteria given to us by the government. As a charity director, I've often written proposals to funders, and to be successful, you have to reflect back what the funder is asking for. Hence, the document talks about growth more than we would instinctively do. But that is what the government wants to hear. And throughout the document, we specify that it is sustainable growth that we are looking for. There are, in my view, 2 valid proposals being put forward, ours and the one put forward by the county for 1 unitary. So I'll explain why I favour ours. The third proposal put forward by the city does not meet the government's criteria. It produces councils which are too small to be viable. It doesn't follow existing boundaries. And whilst it contains a detailed plan for the city, it completely ignores the remaining areas of the proposed areas that it purports to cover. So why should you support our proposal rather than the one for the county? Firstly, size. As a Liberal Democrat, I believe that councils should be small enough to be responsive to local need. The government has said that in order to be financially viable, councils ought to be of the order of $500,000. And they've just approved a proposal set out for 2 councils of 600,000 each in Surrey. Our proposal gives 2 councils of just under 500,000. The proposal for this area, Ridgeway, covers an area of medium-sized market town set in a rural background with no single city or large town dominating. We've heard it said that Tame has no relationship with Newbury, but that's not the question. The question is the area of the council sufficiently small for the centre to deliver services for all its residents without favouring some areas whilst neglecting others? The question is also, do the communities in the council area have enough in common that the council would be able to represent them all? I believe that Ridgeway answers both of those questions, whereas Oxfordshire is too big to deliver services to all areas and has too great a disparity in types of community and will, as now, remain both remote and unresponsive. Secondly, finance. PricewaterhouseCoopers and SIPFA have looked at all 3 proposals, and whilst ours has greater setup costs than the county, it delivers greater year-on-year savings. Much is made of the economies of scale, but the diseconomies brought about by longer management lines and a lack of understanding of local needs are often forgotten. Thirdly, the opportunity to innovate. The county says that we should not risk disruption to key services, but sometimes services need to be disrupted. Our residents told us throughout our public engagement that some services are simply not good enough. We all know this from our own casework. This process gives us a once-in-a-generation chance to innovate and make a step change in the delivery of some of our services. We can take the best from each existing council, design a service that meets the needs and expectations of our residents. The two unitary proposal is unique in that it's been put together in partnership between 5 councils, whereas the other 2 have been produced in isolation. It is also unique in that all 5 councils are bringing it to their full council for discussion, comment and debate before the decision is made. County, I believe, are not taking their proposal to full council, and the city are only doing so after the decision has been made by Cabinet. I believe that this demonstrates how proud we are with our proposal and how confident we are in its conclusions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ruane. Councillor Thomas, did you want to add anything to
Completely different styles, but quite a lot of similar content. That's how we often work. I would like to thank officers for the tremendous amount of work they have done on this. It's been monumental on top of everything else. Obviously not something we asked them to do, but we have got ourselves into this because of the government's request. I am very happy that this is a chance potentially for changing the overall services across the area for the better. It is a chance that we have to transform how we deliver services, because it will be in conjunction with West Berkshire, and in my speech I did sort of specify some of the really positive points of both delivery of services in West Berkshire and currently, and the delivery of services that we have here in Vale and South as well. So there's lots of positives to choose from, and yes, I think it is a unique opportunity, as Councillor Ruane said. We are the only proposal. We have the only proposal that is being supported by multiple councils, and we are the only proposal that is being, I think, more openly scrutinised, with councils being able to have a say on those discussions. So I think that's all I have to add.
Thanks, Councillor Thomas. So with that, I think we can go into the substantive debate. So, Councillor Cook, your first.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Diving in here. First off, a lot of very good work has been done and is in here. A lot of information in the 400 odd pages. I notice you're focusing on the demographics, the financials, the growth offer, and the send side of things. I've got no questions on the demographics. The financials look fine to me. And the growth offer, as you say, we're focusing on that a lot because that's what the other side want to hear. It's the old fourth choice thing, yeah. Because everything else is pointless unless we get chosen. So looking at the send side of things and the adult social care, I can see some very real opportunities and positives, but I think our role is to press and test potential negatives. Systems tend to break at interfaces and at the edges. And we are introducing an edge, aren't we, by making 2. I'm thinking Abingdon and Whitley College, for example, which will be in 2 unitary authorities with its 2 campuses. These 2 campuses are not interchangeable, or young people with greater needs and support requirements are at the Whitley College. The Abingdon campus is not suitable for them. I know this from painful experience because my son goes to the Whitley one. He would not be suitable for the Abingdon one. So on behalf of a lot of the parents who will be in the send side of things, what are the issues with what are now cross-boundary activities?
Thank you for raising that. You did say that you were going to ask some questions. You were completely silent on the last item.
I was
you were
building up.
Yeah.
Everyone else was asking brilliant questions. I didn't need to shove my head more in. I just wanted to get into this.
First of all, thank you for your question. I think when you talk about boundaries, and I think we've spoken about boundaries a lot already, there are boundaries in existence now. I hope, and I think we believe going forward that because of the partnership that has brought together this proposal, I would like to think that we would be working as sort of as a partnership into the future. So if there are cross-boundary issues, as there are now, because of the way it is, there's always going to be boundaries. I would like to think that we can overcome that. I would also like to sort of stress, and I've been thinking about this a lot, that it would be great if those two facilities could be perhaps more interchangeable. I don't know how it works, but also that we increase the transport between the two and within the area, because at the moment, even my
it's a bugger to get to them.
Yeah, you can't get to, well, we could just about get to Whitney, I think. No, we would be able to get to both Whitney and Abington, but it would require.
Well, for us, we have to have the transport because we can't get from Drayton to Whitney and back twice a day.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a really good point. But I think there are certain things that we could probably improve regardless of what.
I did notice align with NHS ICS footprints for joint commissioning in ASC SEND of public health might imply that we would be cross-boundary, but I didn't want to lead the witness.
If I could come in as well, I should say we agreed a division of responsibilities, that I would answer the easy questions, the other hard ones, and the really hard ones would go to Adriana.
Who is taking notes as we speak, so
good.
She's
I just want to pick up on one thing you said about introducing a border. We're not introducing a border, we're moving a border, because there is already a border between Oxfordshire and West Berkshire.
True.
And if you live near that border, then you will have cross-border issues. And indeed, one of the, you might have heard that Reading has made a land grab for part of West Berkshire. And one of the issues that they have is one of their SEND facilities happens to be in the bit of West Berkshire that Reading want to take over. So there are always boundary issues, and you won't get away from joint commissioning or cross-boundary working because wherever you are, I used to talk to the leader of Cherwell Council, the then leader of Cherwell Council, and he said he could stand at the end of his garden and spit into Buckinghamshire. And
did he do that?
He said he did, just for the hell of it. But there are boundaries wherever you put what.
As long as
there will always have to be arrangements for joint commissioning across.
As long as arrangements for joint commissioning are possible, because what I'm thinking of is, I am in the fortunate position that by the time this comes to pass, my family won't need it. But that doesn't mean I'm all right, Jack. I've got to think about, of course, what's coming next. And that the people who have got systems and placements and transport set up don't lose out. It's great getting new positives, but not if we create. But if we create losers, they're the ones that can feel the pain. So will we still have access to sites across the board, like farmability? Because we're hoping my son will get into Pennyhooks Farm. A backup is one at Alverstoke. That won't be a backup anymore, will it? Or will it?
Just on a practical sort of note, I was having a meeting just, I can't remember, isn't that awful? Thursday? It was Thursday, about the new SEND school that's being built in Paddington. And obviously I did ask, so how is LGR, how is Devo going to affect this? And they said that they have the Gallery Trust, and they have that factored in. They explained how the process works now. We sort of talked about expectation management, because obviously everybody thinks that they're going to get their kid into this school.
Exactly, yeah.
It's not going to happen, because obviously first it has to be, there's so many different considerations, but it will always be not just, like, for example, now Oxfordshire, it will also be Gloucestershire, Wiltshire and various other areas. They are fully immersed in the LGR sort of idea, and they know the potentials and the proposals there. So that's from a sort of left of centre practical sort of point of view. I have made that discussion just locally as a board member.
Councillor Cook, are you satisfied that your concerns are reflected?
I'm satisfied that my concerns and those of people in that kind of situation are being taken on board and reflected. So I was going to ask a positive one about what capabilities and opportunities we get from West Berkshire, but I'm starting to think I've actually seized too much of the time.
I suspect that Councillor Snowden might be picking up on sense. So can we come back to the
I will
opportunities?
shut up at this
No,
point.
no, we'll come back to the opportunities from West Berkshire. But Councillor Snowden, I suspect you wanted to pick up on send.
Well, I would, because I picked up on Thursday, but I was accused of, using it as some sort of political tool. It's clearly other councillors have the same feeling as I do. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of, how should we say, trying to make one look better than the other on these. The 7th provision chart on page 475. I mean, it states that the Oxfordshire option is due to have £100 million deficit, and that's red. The West Berkshire has a orange, so it's better. Says the deficit is 30 million. Well, to my maths, Oxfordshire is more than 5 times the size, so surely per person the deficit is worse in West Berkshire than it is in the Oxfordshire one. So why is that orange and the other one's red? It looks like you're cherry picking up, if it's 5 times as many population, that would be 150 million, so it'll be worse.
Councillor Snowden, sorry, could you remind us what page we're on?
475.
Thank you.
Just struggle why that one's orange and one's red in that chart, when clearly West Berkshire is a fifth the size of Oxfordshire. Deficit is only a third less. It's been painted as being better than, the math doesn't make sense to me. There's a number of these things where it sort of makes it look better than it is. So
page 475, as Councillor Snowden said, overview of children's services, overview areas of focus, and you're referring specifically to line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the People to report relating to send provision. And going through the table, option 1A, Oxfordshire, a deficit of 100 million plus.
Yeah.
Is that where we are? Yeah, which is red.
Yeah, there's 750,000 people in that one, whereas there's 140, 150,000 in West Berkshire, and that's a 30 million deficit. Surely that should be red as well, because that will equate to 150 million deficit.
Because presumably the deficit would be diluted more in a one Oxfordshire. Well, it wouldn't be there. I wonder, David or Betty, if you're able to shed some light on those figures.
I think Adriana is in charge of colour coding, but I'm guessing it's the colour coding is not just based on the deficit. And remember, it says 100 million plus. It's not 100 million. But if you look at the tribunal figures, for
okay, just to clarify, it's page 476, and if we go down a page, it states there send provision Oxfordshire is only 100 million, doesn't say the plus there.
Right, yeah, point taken. But go on, Councillor Ryan.
Sorry.
I was saying that the colour coding isn't just on the deficit, it's on other factors within send. So I think the tribunal figures for West Berkshire, for example, are less than they are.
Still above national average, though, aren't they? So it's not a great thing. National average is 3%. There's 3.5. I still wouldn't say that's a positive.
Which is why it's amber rather than green.
Yeah. But you add that to the £150 million deficit. But anyway, okay, I made my point because that's the situation. I just didn't know why it was better. The worst it should be the same. Also on page 449, when we talk about land supply, you know, SODC clearly hasn't got a 5-year land supply. Vale just about has. West Berkshire 2.6. So if we join this Ridgeway, are we going to be inundated with more houses to meet West Berkshire's unmet need?
No, because local plans are on their specific geography. So at the moment, West Berkshire have a housing supply that's based on their local plan. We have a housing supply that's based on our local plan, and until the new local plan comes in, those local plans carry on with the existing land supply figures.
And just finally, but my main one, and I've said it the other day, and I'm staggered. Trying to find analogies for residents to try and explain this is difficult. So to me, joining councils are a bit like companies merging together. And the very first thing a company would do is work out how much it's worth, all its assets and cash and so forth, to make sure it's not joining another company that's debt ridden, for example. I'm amazed that we've done no research into finding out how much each council's got, so that we can see what we've got to start with when the council first starts. I know decisions will be made by the shadow authority, but surely we don't want to be getting into bed with, neither council seems to know exactly what their position is. If you had your property, I presume that we would know exactly what our property portfolio plus cash reserves and investments would be worth as a total. So I don't understand why the 3 councils. We know West Berkshire haven't got a lot of money, and there's discussions about the West Berkshire's position, but I would thought that's one of the first things. If you think of a company, residents are basically like our shareholders, and we're basically saying get into bed with another council. We don't know what money their situation is financially, but we think this is the best option. So can you explain how I can tell my residents that SODC won't be funding residents of Vale White Horse council tax next year, or in a couple of years' time?
We do know what the financial situation is because each council produces accounts. The point that was made to your question at council was that those accounts that are published don't include investment properties, of which West Berkshire's got 40 million.
This is what I'm asking. So why is it? Where is it in there telling how much investment property and so forth that Vale have got, so we can compare the different council?
I guess what we're relying on is Pricewaterhouse having done financial assessments and SIPA having done financial assessments. So, okay, the document. You've got to remember what this document is. This isn't a document prepared for residents. It's a document prepared for government. And government have access to those specific numbers. What we're telling them is the thinking behind us going together. So if there's a case to be made to residents, then that can be made separately. But this is a case to made to government, who already have intimate discussions with every council about what their financial.
I was under the impression we spent thousands of pounds sending out materials and doing road shows for residents. If it wasn't for residents, why do we have?
We did road shows for residents, but what we're talking about here is a specific proposal to government.
Yeah, I thought the road shows were to show the benefits and negative sides of it. So surely, however much money.
Nobody actually asked that, I don't think. I can't remember. I was at a lot of those engagements, and that didn't come up. We were discussing the general advantages and disadvantages of each proposal. I don't think once that was mentioned, but I could be mistaken.
I haven't looked at the county one in detail, but I don't know if that details their financial situation.
Yeah, Adriana, Adriana, did you want to sort of provide us with some insight on the engagement piece and to what extent residents were given information about the financial wherewithal of the different proposals, or at least of this proposal?
Yeah. So the government criteria in terms of engagement was to ask members of the public and businesses and partners, etc., what they felt about our services and what was important to them.
So we specifically across Oxfordshire and West Berkshire did not go out with engagement in terms of the advantages, disadvantages of different proposals or any detail. The government criteria was to allow the residents and the members of the public to inform our proposal in terms of what was important to them. So at no point did we ask them for their views on what proposal they preferred or speak to the advantages or disadvantages of any of the proposals. It was very much, what do you think about services you're receiving at the moment and what would you like to see more of? So the engagement chapter feeds back what they felt about our services, and we've used them to inform the proposal. So throughout the proposal in the various chapters, you'll see elements that says you said this and this is how we've taken your views into consideration in terms of informing our proposal. So just to be clear about what the purpose of the engagement was.
Okay, but as a councillor, I'm here to represent my residents, and I know that places like Oxford City has a large property portfolio. I know Chile will own Castle Key, for example, so I know they're bringing a lot to the table. Why have we not given anything about how much Vale's bringing to the table and West Berkshire is bringing to the table? So I don't know if we're not, I might be agreeing to a ridge rate thing, and it turns out our council tax is going to go through the roof because it turns out we haven't got enough money to fund. I know we're getting the Oxfordshire County Council, for example, property will get what's in our area, but I can think of Vale's got depot in Drayton, and I'm limited to what I can think, whereas I know Oxfordshire County Council has a lot of property in Oxford City. So will we be getting 20% each council, 20% of county council's whole worth, or are we just going to get what's in our area, which is not a lot? Through you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Snowden. Did you want to come back on any of that, Adriana?
Well, unfortunately, Simon had to give his apologies for this evening for personal reasons. He did a lot of the financial assessment, but I don't know if Anna wants to come in.
Good evening, Anna. You've heard the discussion and the question from Councillor Snowden. Did you want to come in on that? I think it's an important point.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And as others have said before me, that PwC and CITFA have done a lot of this work, but that has been challenged by the Section 151 officers across the districts. And we have taken into account the assets that each of the councils own. The expectation at the moment is that the properties will be assigned to the unitaries based on a geographical area. So that is part of the assumption that we've made. We've also made some assumptions around the values of those assets, but also what they are currently used for. So to define whether they should be part of the overall equation of the financial options appraisal as well. Has that helped?
I guess, Anna, the point is that this is a document that's going to government, and what Councillor Snowden is asking is really, how is the sausage made? And we're not going to be given the opportunity to review how the sausage was made.
No, this as you can expect, there's lots of assumptions that we've had to make. PwC have been involved in other authorities' proposals, so have used the knowledge that they've had through there. So we think that what assumptions we've made have been the right assumptions. And as you say, it's a government document. There's only a certain amount of detail that we can actually put in there as well. So yeah, I think your statement's right. There'll be only a certain amount of input we can actually have.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. Ian, I'll come back to you, but Nick Bennett has just popped up. So Nick, go ahead. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Chair. I hope this might be helpful. I'm not sure in which of the full council meetings it was, but Simon was asked about this, and one of the points he emphasised was that the assumptions that were being made generally in financial terms were being made consistently by PricewaterhouseCoopers, whichever model we're talking about. And I'm making that point again because I'm not sure if Councillor Snow was in the meeting where Simon explained this, but that goes to the heart of some of the concerns that Councillor Snowden is raising, is that those financial analyses have been done consistently in the same way across the piece, so that there's going to be no difference in the approach in financial terms, broad strategic financial terms, between the various models. There is only effectively one model, and it's being applied simultaneously in the same way. Now, I'm no accountant, but that's how he explained it, and that's how I understood it, and how I do understand it. The other thing to mention, I think, which is, well, I hope helpful, is that we are also at the start of any detailed work about the application of a submission. And even this morning, I received some updates around the work that will need to be done going forward. So some of the detail, which has been mentioned by Councillor Snowden today and others, will need to be worked through, and we simply, nobody will be able to give you the complete picture on all of these things. What we're trying to give is I suppose the officers and the members answering the questions are trying to do, is give you the best understanding we have at the moment, which is what the paperwork is that's in front of you, and that is in particular as to the assumptions that have been applied. And whilst the individual data on a particular property may be uncertain, the broad assumptions and the way in which that analysis has been done consistently across all the approaches. Chair, I hope you forgive me coming in with such a boring technical bit, but that I thought, because Simon explained that in one of the meetings, it was useful for you as scrutiny members to hear it, possibly either again or for the first time.
Thank you.
Wait for the council tax answer.
Just a moment. So we've got Councillor Snowden. Following that, we've got Councillor Boxall, then Councillor Gavashak. Councillor Gregory, do you have a question relating to this specific aspect? And Councillor Batstone, I think your hand is up as well. Councillor Cook's hand went up. Is your question relating to this specific issue?
Mine's around the financial resilience.
Right, I'll bring you in a moment. Councillor Snowden.
So just to elaborate, I mean, I'm using that as a term, but you could use it in other aspects. For example, I can't see the modelling. We know how many SEND provision we have in South Vale and West Berkshire. I don't see it listed that there's so many places and so forth. But also, this document is going to the government. The government doesn't know the area. This is painted, painted in one way. So when the government look at this, they're going to be thinking, well, obviously this proposal says that that works. It sends going to be better off, and that, but it doesn't state how many places we've got within the Ridgeway area. In my view, so it's the same sort of thing, whether it's finances, send, provision, adult socials.
Thank you. The leaders wanted to jump in. Go ahead, leaders.
Yeah, as I'm just referring back to Mr. Ben, there are a lot of details that we don't know that will be developed in the future. And I was just going to say, the only question that I had about property in the engagement exercises, I don't know how many you went to, but the ones I went to, the only question I had first around property was where the headquarters going to be. So I think there is a lot of detail, just as Nick alluded to, and I think we can't really add anything further. But again, I would just say it's the same for each of these proposals. Nobody knows exactly the detail for county unitary or for the 3 unitary. And actually, I am very proud of the amount of detail that we do have in this proposal.
Thank you very much. Kate Gregory, I know that you had a question about finances, but we'll come to you in a moment. Kat Boxall and then Stefan Gavashak were both waiting patiently.
I'm happy to wait because mine's on a different topic. So let's carry on with related issues.
No, mine's on a generalised point,
okay,
which is relevant to this.
Yeah, go ahead, Stefan. Thank you.
If we want the best proposal, which this document represents, the first thing I wanted to say was thank you. Thank you for actually bringing it to the democracies of SODC and Vale, because county haven't, as we all know. But my other point is, what's the point in this debate? Because it's not going to change, because we're having this scrutiny meeting after the councillors have said their piece. So therefore, my question is, in order to get the best document of this should have come to the scrutiny committee before, so that it could be improved and then moved forward, because we want the best polished diamond we've got here, and certainly as brains around this table certainly contribute some weight to that. So it's really just a generalised point.
Thanks, Councillor Gavashak. This was actually a point of discussion for the chairs and for officers supporting the scrutiny committee, and it was decided that because we were bringing this to full council, that all of the views of all of the full councils involved in this proposal could be collated at the various scrutiny committees, who could then make formal recommendations to cabinet. So the timing of this was to enable us to hear the views of full council.
But if a decision has been made by the council,
it's been made by cabinet.
it can't be.
The decisions are cabinet
Fine,
decisions,
okay.
so we can absolutely repeat
part
points
of that,
made.
okay.
Yes, repeat the points, and it's our job to sort of implement and recommend whatever was said at full council on Thursday if we want to do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Kate Gregory, did you want to go ahead with your question about financial resilience now?
Yeah, so there is an opportunity, you're saying, that to make recommendations.
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
cool.
And I think the leaders are listening. Yeah.
We wouldn't be here if we weren't listening.
So I know that there was a question at full council regarding the figures quoted in the financial resilience.
Is that South Full Council? Just
yeah,
right. That sounds
South.
Oh,
Sorry. So obviously we want the best deal for Oxfordshire, as has been said before. The figures quoted, from my understanding, for option one is so Oxfordshire, one Oxfordshire and West Berkshire have been lumped in together to show that it's potentially the worst option. Whereas if you actually break those down, that's which I understand that we've had since, each of the unitaries, the one Oxfordshire is actually the most financial resilient, and the Ridgeway will actually be less financially resilient than Oxford and Shire's version. So I just worry that we're being a bit misleading in terms of what we're saying here.
This is on page 8.
Sorry, yes, page 8.
Or page 56 of the whole of the.
So I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity to put some narrative around that, or just kind of show those individual options, so it's clear that the full picture. I feel like we're not seeing the full picture there.
Yeah, if I can answer that. I believe I think it's on page 34, it does give the breakdown. It's not that we're just bringing it now and it's all been brought out to us. On page 34, it does give the figure for Oxfordshire and for West Berkshire. So we are being transparent, and I do take the point that it could have been bolder and bigger, but in the executive summary it says this is the total for each proposal, and then in the section that breaks that down within the paper, it tells you what the breakdown is between the two councils. Again, and the answer to some extent is the same as the answer to Councillor Snowden, that this is a paper to government and it's addressing government's issues. And government has one issue around the financial resilience of the new unitaries that are being set up, but it also has a question about the resilience of existing unitaries. And if you remember, the original proposal from government was that small existing unitaries would be asked to merge as part of this process, but that was then shelved because of resources at MHCLG, and that will come later. But we're writing to government and saying we can address your problem, and we can give you a satisfactory answer with regards to Oxfordshire, but as a bonus, we can also pick up a particular issue with West Berkshire, that it is currently too small to be financially resilient. Summary, we're we're writing to government and we're addressing their issues. New unitaries is one of their issues. Existing unitaries is their second issue. The third, because Simon thought it was when it was asked at full council, South's full council. Simon thought it was in the paper, but couldn't find it. But it is actually, as I think it's on page 34. It's the second mention.
Yeah,
as you go through. So it is in there. We maybe need to draw people's attention to it, but that breakdown it is in the paper.
I think it's an important point, and because in the preceding paragraph it says an assessment of the risks around future financial resilience based on the current financial baseline against the SIPA Financial Resilience Index concludes that the two unitary model represents the lowest risk option to secure financial resilience. And that is at best, I think, misleading because, and I don't have a view actually, I'm not particularly in favour of One Oxfordshire for a number of reasons. However, I think it's important that we're accurate in what we're saying. The implication is that One Oxfordshire is the least financially resilient of the three proposals. And the only reason that it appears that way is because West Oxfordshire is lumped in with the One Oxfordshire unitary, when of course in reality One Oxfordshire has nothing to do with West Berkshire. And there's nothing to suggest it ever will, should that go ahead. And in fact, West Berkshire might end up merging with Reading and Wokingham. So I take the point. I think it's important that we're accurate. I think we're perhaps sailing a little close to the wind on that section. And I think it's important that, we keep our powder dry.
I mean, I think I take the point, but we have laid out our proposals and they are all different and they reflect different geographies, because even the three unitary, while it has the same geography, it's got different borders and boundaries. And our job is to cover the area that we have suggested as our geography, and that is what we're doing. I do understand that it might look like that, and maybe we can do something too.
I think some clarification would be appropriate, and I don't know how committee members feel. We'll go to a discussion on that, but I think certainly Councillor Gregory raises. I think it's an important point, because other than that, I think this is an excellent document. But I do think that this financial modelling is potentially misleading, and it doesn't need to be necessarily. I think just some clarification could be helpful.
I mean, and can I just add that, and I think this is correct, that when the proposals were shared between councils, the county council, and again, I sort of really only see the county option as being the only other viable option proposal. I believe the county read our proposal and didn't find any errors or sort of large gaping mistakes. So they accepted this as it was, and so I'm just reflecting that.
Okay, thank you very much, both of you. Councillor Gregory, are you satisfied?
Well, yeah, if we can put in a recommendation to put some clarity around it. I do have some concerns as well, just in general, that we are, this option is taking on a council that is not as financially resilient, and so that's a concern for local residents and taxpayers. So that's just a point.
Thank you. Yeah. Just a moment, Councillor Snowden, because I have Ron Banstone waiting patiently. Go ahead, Ron.
Yes, it's really on the same issue, I think. And it's the way that we're handling the exceptional financial support which West Berkshire need at the moment. And on page 308, it does try to explain West Berkshire's exceptional financial support It might be my lack of accounting knowledge, but I really can't understand that paragraph at all. And I don't know how you can compare it with the other options, because this is the only option that requires this exceptional financial support.
Shall I read the paragraph?
Yeah.
Okay. For the benefit of members, it's page 308 in our agenda pack. Introduction to debts and liabilities, local context. West Berkshire has received exceptional financial support. This is treated as a long-term liability in the model. Potential to increase ahead of vesting date. I don't know what that sentence means. However, as the model provides a moment in time view of the financial position, any increased need for exceptional financial support is not explicitly projected in the model. It strikes me that that's quite important. I wonder if our leaders or Adriana could provide some context around that. Thanks, Ron.
Yeah, my understanding is that the exceptional financial support that West Berkshire got was to provide working capital, so that they didn't have to sell their properties in order to generate short-term finance. I'm sorry?
I'm just saying their reserves didn't cover their deficit.
Yeah, because their reserves, as we've said before, are include their cash, just their cash, not their fixed assets. So yeah, in order to operate day to day, they needed some cash. There are two ways in which they could have done that. One is to sell their shopping centre in whichever, I've forgotten where it is now, and the other is to borrow some money from the government. And what they did was borrow money from the government. And I think what this paragraph is saying in terms of not being able to judge the future is that we don't know between now and vesting day. We've taken a snapshot of where we are now, but between now and vesting day, we don't know what will come up. So we're saying this is what it is now. Between now and vesting day, there will be pluses and minuses. There was some of you will have seen in whatever the Newbury local paper is, a thing saying that West Berkshire was bankrupt. And essentially what that was they'd had a forecast for this year, which had increased their deficit in their forecast. Because they're such a small council, one of the things that tipped them over as a exceptional cost was they had 3 children referred to them who were all high cost, high need. And because if you're a small council, that affects your bottom line in a more significant way than if you're a bigger council. That is the whole point behind the government saying that you need to be a certain size in order to be financially resilient.
Thank you. Are you satisfied with that?
It still doesn't explain really how it was handled in the comparison. Because presumably this is a cost which is going to be carried forward to the new council.
So DC reserves will pay it.
Yeah, and there's a comparison across across all of the councils in doing that. I seem to remember that it's a while since I was a county councillor, but I seem to remember that they have borrowings as well. And so it's treating those all in the same way, and we don't know, for example, the cost of testing, how that's going to affect what the reserves of county are by the time we get to vesting day.
Yeah, I suspect, just don't know.
Councillor Foxall, I put you off a while ago. Did you want to jump in now with your question?
I can do if we're happy to move on. Okay, thank you.
Are we continuing with financial questions, or should we move on from that now? Move on. Okay.
Mine's slightly financial.
Okay, we'll go ahead. Go ahead.
So this is more a kind of conceptual, spatial question, but it's also slightly related to finances, and it's about what will be an overwhelmingly rural council, really based on market towns, which is seen as positive. Specifically for Ridgeway, this isn't so much for Oxford and Shires, and it's about question about providing services in rural areas, because I think I think this is important that we are sending this specifically to a Labour government, because what we are proposing with Ridgeway is essentially a big dark, literally a big dark space in the middle. And we know that rural services are more expensive to provide. We know that rural councils struggle more financially. And when you look at the number of residents per square metre, if you take Oxfordshire as a whole, you end up with 786 residents per square mile, not per square metre. Per square mile, 786 per square mile. The Ridgeway proposal will end up, if my figures are correct, with 640 people per square mile, which is significantly less than 786. But it's definitely significantly less than the average in England, which is 1,120 per square mile. So if we are going to convince a Labour government, how do we convince them that this big dark hole in the middle is a kind of financially viable way of delivering a council? So I don't think we do that.
I would be interested to see sort of the, sorry, I'm not going to phrase this well, but the difference between Oxfordshire as a whole and what we're proposing here, and whether that is significantly different. It probably is, but I mean, I think Oxfordshire currently is one of the most rural counties in the country, but there are obviously other areas that are just as rural. Now, I mean, the government, Labour or otherwise, has to be able to cope with rural areas. There are lots of areas within the country that don't have massive conurbations, and I think personally it's a selling point for this council, Ridgeway Council proposal, because we have a proven track record of delivering services in a rural environment. Take, for instance, obviously, garbage, rubbish. What do we call it in this country? I can't remember. Trash. No.
Getting back to
waste and recycling. We do that over a huge area. We're innovative, and we do an incredibly good job at it. It's something that works. It would be difficult. I'm just speculating here, but to transfer that sort of service in an urban setting and expand it out. So I think it could be seen as a positive that we are delivering really well rurally, and as is West Berkshire. West Berkshire services are excellent overall, excellent as in exceptional, and I think we're rural specialists.
Can I add to that? The services do need to be delivered in this area. So if it were another model, it's how would you deliver those services in a rural area? What we've talked a lot today about balance sheets rather than about systems, and this document is largely about systems, and it's saying whatever delivery of services, let's look at how Oxfordshire does it. If we're talking about top tier services, whether it's adult social care or children's services or whatever, or potholes, let's look at how Oxfordshire currently delivers it. Let's look at how West Berkshire currently delivers it. Who's doing best on each of those services? And let's model our service around that. So in terms of delivering to this rural area, having a council that is focused on delivering to rural services, I see as positive. Anyone who's looked at the way that the county allocates its resources now, certainly in terms of its debating time, it's focused very heavily on the urban centre. And so how services are delivered in the rural parts of the county, I would argue are neglected under that model. So having one council that is essentially delivering to rural services and has that focus, I think would be a benefit.
Betty, go ahead.
Can I just say that was one of the themes I picked up on in our engagement activities, that people did see that in a larger area like the county, it is city focused, and they feel excluded. Residents sort of on where you represent, it's very much on the border, and they are very scared sometimes of just being ignored completely. So yeah.
Thank you. I've spent a lot of time looking at page 6 and 7 because that's the start of your executive summary. And I think that phrase rural specialist needs to be on those 2 pages then. In that case, if that's the argument you're making, because you've got civil servants who are going to be looking at a big black hole, who are working for a Labour government, which is by definition defined by urban centres, and they need to be told on the first 2 pages, how is this even going to work? Because I'm not convinced, still having read this document, and as you say, I represent an area which is constantly saying, what about us, what about us, what about us? So I think that would,
thank you.
But yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Foxall. I have Andy Cook next and then Judy Roberts.
I was just commenting in response to Councillor Snowden's question on council taxes, that it's in there. Page 123 of the document, which is page 171 of the overall pack-up, compares Band D council taxes across the individual districts as they are, and the potential unitary authorities. So if people did want to get down there, I'm pedantic and get my head down, so I like numbers, so I knew that was in there.
Thanks.
And Councillor Snowden will be happy to learn that South Oxfordshire would have a slight decrease in its council tax. Possibly because we're getting rid of
after they've donated all the money to the other council.
Thank you both. Councillor Roberts, go ahead.
Yes, well, I mean, we've been talking a lot about the SIPFA and the price waterhouse data. I was going to raise the point of risk as well as finances, because they allocate risk to all the areas. And Oxfordshire is 3.87 in your breakdown on page 8, where you have them all shoved together. So the reason it comes that high is because West Berkshire is 39.92, and that's why that figure is so high, because it's all coming from West Berkshire. And when you go through their risk element on all the things, the city come out high right across the board for absolutely everything they measure. Cherwell come out high for several things. West come out medium on 2. Vale comes out green on them all. West Berkshire isn't obviously in there because they didn't look at that, but we know that they are already borrowing 17 million from the government. And SODC comes out with, I think, just on reserves. So in terms of risk, not only are we looking at South and Vale and Ridgeway, I really don't think we've talked about, you can chop one half out, but you've got to look at the other half. Does the other half stand up? It cannot be a plan if it doesn't have 2 halves. And with the risk factors that are in that joint work that was done for all of the councils, that worries me a lot, because it's basically saying that the other half of this has got 2, one extraordinarily high risk, one pretty high risk, and one quite low but medium risk. And how is that going to stand up as a unitary? Are you just saying, well, we're doing fine, but you lot over there can just get on with it? So that worries me considerably. That's the point I wanted to make on risk. And I thought, whilst I've got the floor, I'd go for it. Disaggregation of services. One of the things that were in the criteria by the government was that they did not want disaggregation of vulnerable services. And I understand this must have disaggregation of vulnerable services. And to me, they're saying that that's not a problem. But my question is, either you're asking the services of West Berkshire to immediately go and deliver 300% instead of the 100% they're delivering, or you're disaggregating the Oxfordshire services. And I don't think that's really come through this paper at all as to how that's being dealt with. Whether we're going to use all of West Berkshire services or whether we are expecting some of the Oxford County Council services to be chopped in half and suddenly function fully. And my last one was about the fire service. The fire service cannot be statutory acceptable under a 2-unitary or a 3-unitary. It'll only be acceptable, legally compliant under one Oxfordshire where it currently is, or under a combined authority. And we haven't really spoken about combined authorities, because I think the answer that you were making for the last question is probably answered better by the combined authority, or that that is probably coming down the line. But should this go ahead, and that to me is quite a difficult thing for the government, and it's not really, doesn't really come out in your document at all, that actually as a 2-unitary authority you couldn't do anything with it. You can't take it on, and you can only give it to a combined authority that may or may not, probably will not exist at that point in time. So that for me hasn't come through in this document either. So that's my 3 questions. I've probably got more.
So they were financial instability for the other half of the 2 councils model, fire service, and disaggregation of services.
Yeah, and I've also got the fact that everybody quotes the marvellous transformation, but if you just look at the costs in the first year and the basic stretch, which for me in year 1 is probably all any organisations can actually manage, you get completely different figures out. You get plus 9.8 for the 1-unitary, minus 0.8 for the 2, so that's pretty okay, but minus 15 million for the 3-unitary. And my question was going to be, if Simon was here, was he does have a responsibility to the residents of the area that he serves, to make sure that what he's recommending is compliant and acceptable. And I was going to ask, did he think that was, but since he's not here.
We've got an idea though, and we've got the leaders. So I think we'll go to David and Bethy on those questions.
That's if I can talk about disaggregation. The government didn't say don't disaggregate. It said be careful that if that's what you're doing. It's just approve a disaggregation of Surrey County Council's services into 2 unitaries for Surrey. What we're saying is that effectively it's not that West Berkshire will have to go out and recruit a load of people to take over Southern Vale. What we're saying is those people currently working for the county council delivering services within Southern Vale would become part of Ridgeway in the same way that people currently working for West Berkshire would become part of Ridgeway. So what you would have is a change of reporting lines from somebody who is an adult social care worker in Tame now would become, currently their line management goes up through Oxfordshire County Council. In future, their line management will go up through the Ridgeway Council. So it's not that, and you're shaking your head, Judy, but that's exactly what has been done on the other unitaries when they've been set up.
Well, I was shaking my head because a lot of those workers are contracted out to companies, so they are not members of county council. They are companies, and therefore it'll be up to the company whether to accept that or there's no.
But what would
but
the
we'll
option
use the
be?
word innovation again. If where there is a contract, so for example, our bin contract is currently outsourced. The contract is between Southern Vale Councils and BIFA. That contract will be novated over to the new council, or whether it's West or whether it's Ridgeway. So all those outsourced contracts they're usually tied to a geography. So if county has outsourced some of its services and they've outsourced them for a particular area, then that area gets novated over to the new council. And the way adult social care and children's services are so big within the county, they are not managed as one block. They are managed in teams below that. And what it is a change of direction in terms of their reporting lines to move them into the new authority. And that is what happened. And some of those will continue to be joint working. So the two unitaries may decide to have a joint working so that they can negotiate a contract to cover the whole area, just as the county at the moment is going out to tender for a civil parking enforcement contract that's going to include Reading. But for the
sorry, that's by the point. It doesn't include Reading. You're working with them as a joint.
Yes, and similarly, Ridgeway and Oxford and Jones could work together in order to, and I suspect that in early days, not to tie the hands of the new authority, but I suspect that in early days, whilst those contracts are playing themselves out, those existing contracts are playing themselves out, there'll be quite a lot of joint working, but they might be disentangled as time goes on. On the fire service, there's a particular legal thing which I think Adriana wants to come in, but my understanding is that there are several fire services that work across more than one authority.
To that, and I can also speak to the section 151 question if that's appropriate. They should cover that. And I ask that in order in terms of the section 151 assurance, and I'm sure Nick and Anna will jump in if I'm speaking out of turn, but we have actually received assurance from 5 section 151 officers, actually Julie, so all 5 section 151 officers from the councils that are supporting this proposal have confirmed that they are content to sign off the narrative that was in that proposal, and I know you can confirm you've been in those meetings as well.
Yes, I can. Yes. Yeah.
I'm only 5 151 authorities that reviewed it. In terms of the just if I may, Chair, just add a little comment on the disaggregation of services. The government criteria is actually, it doesn't want to see any unnecessary disaggregation of services, and I think that word is quite important. It's not disaggregation for disaggregation's sake. This proposal is proposing necessary disaggregation of services from our view in order to improve service delivery and to achieve the service transformation that the government criteria is asking for. In terms of the combined fire authority, that is a tweak that we're suggesting that we will make to the proposal document. So we have undertaken this week, not this week because we're on Monday, last week, sorry, last week we undertook further conversations with the Chief Fire Officer from Oxfordshire Fire and Rescue Services, but we also had a conversation with the Chief Fire Officer, but was termed slightly differently, for the Royal Berkshire Fire Authority. Royal Berks are already a combined fire authority. That's not the current position that we have across Oxfordshire, but we have received confirmation from them that there is a legal route to what we would be proposing is the Oxfordshire Fire and Rescue Service would become a combined fire authority, and then they would continue to cover the same footprint of Oxfordshire. They would operate in the same way. It would effectively make them independent. So the current Chief Fire Officer would become effectively a Chief Executive and Head of Paid Service, similar to the Royal Berks Fire Service. They would continue to cover the ceremonial county of Berkshire. And it's more about governance. So in terms of council representatives would serve on that board from the various geographies. We would see that as that legal route then to the MSA, which is what the government's intention is the fire service we got. That's
part of the recommendations.
That would be part of our proposal, would be to move to a combined fire authority. So operationally on the ground, the fire service would still, there'd be no disaggregation of the fire services. It would still continue to operate on that Oxfordshire footprint until MSA, whenever that comes, if the timeline is outlined.
And risk? We have the answer to risk.
Adriana mentioned this 5 section 151 officers who have signed off on this.
Look, the risk of the stability of the Shires and Oxford.
Yes, the other half.
I don't know if Anna, could you just repeat your question? I don't know if Anna wanted to pick that one up. Sorry.
It was that when you look at the SIPFA's breakdown on risk, the city is high on everything they measured. Charwell is high on, I think, about 3 or 4. West Oxford is only medium on a couple. But with that much risk against the 3 parties on that side, how does that square with any risk assessment to their future viability?
Sorry, is that the SIPFA Resilience Index?
Yeah.
That you're looking at, yes. I think it's been assessed as a as it says, it's a financial resilience index. It takes into account lots of different financial aspects. I think your point there is that sort of the North Oxford is higher risk than ourselves, but I think overall it is the least risk, the lowest risk score of the 3 proposals, the 1 UA, 2 UA and 3 UA.
What is the lowest risk?
Our proposal, the 2 UA, is overall the lowest risk.
Including West Berkshire or not including West Berkshire?
Including West Berkshire, yes. All of our data includes West Berkshire.
And did West Berkshire receive a letter to ask them to partake in this?
So
sorry, I didn't. Oh, yeah.
Sorry,
Anna.
Anna.
Thank you. No, it's fine.
So
I can't hear everything that's being said in the room. I apologise.
So West Berkshire didn't receive a letter. It's clear in the proposal that Oxfordshire authorities received the letter, but the letter does specifically specify that as Oxfordshire authorities we can speak with neighbouring authorities, and so we decided to approach West Berkshire and include them within our proposal for 2 unitary authorities, which is within the government's invitation letter as an appropriate criteria.
Okay, thank you. Judy, are you satisfied with that? Yes, thank you. No, good questions. Thank you very much. I had a few broader questions, if I may, and then Councillor Snowden, you had some more as well. I just wonder, I understand that at full council on Thursday of last week, I apologise, I wasn't there, I was at university, that Simon Hewings was able to provide some breakdown of costs for the putting together of this particular proposal. And I believe the cost per council was around £100,000. And does that include officer time for officers who've been diverted away from other tasks? Yeah, thanks, Danny.
The budget was 100,000.
Yeah.
What Simon said in that meeting was that hasn't been spent. We don't expect to spend more than that. But 100,000 is the upper limit per council on it.
Does that include officer time as well?
No, it does. What it includes is no, it doesn't. It includes the consultants and any extra people that were required, but not our current staff. As I said at that council meeting, we have been quite guilty of exploiting our staff, and this proposal has been produced largely by senior officers. And who have continued to do their other work. So during Adriana and I discussed whether any current things in our work plan had been dropped during the course of this. Remembered that we've progressed our joint local plan and progressed our conversations with the inspector on that. We've delivered on a new contract for our waste services, and we're delivering lots of other business as usual activities. Nothing has specifically been stopped, but what has been done is that service managers have quite often delivered things which previously would have been overseen by heads of service, which I should think is probably a good thing for them and a good thing for the council. No, we are not. We haven't incurred any extra costs in terms of staff. What we've done is shamelessly exploited the staff that we've got.
Nick's jumped in, but before we move on, Nick, did you want to jump in on this particular point?
It was, Chair, thank you. Very brief, very minor point. Nothing Councillor Rain said was wrong, but Simon also mentioned, I've got my notes with me, that there was a grant from central government, which also is received, which was extra to the £100,000 per council. But what he said was that the total spend by all the councils on those external costs, including that, was within that budget envelope. So just because he made that extra point, Chair, sorry to intrude, but just to make sure you got the full facts.
Thanks, Nick. So with that in mind, obviously residents in South Oxfordshire and Vale of Whitehorse will be paying for two separate competing proposals. So do we have any information about the cost of the One Oxfordshire proposal?
I don't have those, but there are several county councillors in the room, so maybe they can answer that.
So with that in mind, with an awareness that residents are paying for two competing proposals, are we satisfied that the proposal we have before us is the best one?
I am, and I think that in my introduction I said that there were three reasons why I thought this was the best one. The first and most important for me is on the size of the authorities and bringing it closer to the residents, so that what we deliver is what the residents want. And whilst I'll come on to number two being the finances, but one of the biggest wastes in any local authority is delivering services that residents don't want, or delivering the wrong services. And so the first thing is having local services that deliver what local people want. The second is finances. And as I said, we've discussed that quite a lot. And leaving aside the snapshot of where we are now, the year-on-year savings are greater for our proposal than they are for the other two. And so in 10 years' time, that will be the important thing rather than where we started from. And the final thing is, or the third thing, is the opportunity to innovate. I've taken part in lots of, or several of these debates now, and watched others. And the point that the leader of the county council always makes is about their proposal being safe and business as usual and carrying on doing what we're doing. And I think that this is a once in a generation. The last time we had a major local government reorganisation was 1974. And I'm one of the few in the room that remembers that. But it's a once in a generation chance to innovate, to look at what different councils are doing and pick out what is best or what is new that other organisations are doing, rather than, I think, that attitude that says, this is what we're doing, this is what we'll carry on doing. And it's an opportunity that if we miss now, won't come around again.
If committee members will permit me, I just have two very quick questions relating to this. Looking at the One Oxfordshire proposal, the proposal that is going to government is full of pictures. It's got Liz Leftman's photo. Mm-hmm. It's a compelling document because it looks good. And I think our proposal is very well written and excellently done. I wonder what support you have given to the officers and how much input you've had into this document to make it a compelling, attractive proposition that's going to capture the imagination of government. Because looking at our proposal and looking at the one that's coming from One Oxfordshire, one is colourful, attractive, dynamic, exciting, and has a person fronting it. And our one has no human beings visible anywhere and no pictures apart from graphs that are quite dry. If we want this to grab the attention of very overworked, stressed officers at MHCLG, I think we need to jazz it up a bit.
That's an interesting view. If you want our faces on it, yeah. I think it would sell it very well to it.
All right, I'll do it. I'll have my.
But I'm talking about pictures of landscape, pictures of businesses, pictures. Yeah.
There's enough fairy dust on it as it is.
If I could answer that, so that is happening. So we are doing a designed version So it will have all those pretty pictures, but
I think it probably doesn't need our faces on it. But
we
we can do
content
if you
all the way up to
Yeah.
the democratic
Thanks,
area.
Adriana. But my point is, if we're going to submit this and council, I mean, I'm assuming cabinet will propose that we submit this. I think we should be putting our best foot forward.
Oh,
You know,
yeah, most definitely.
and doing honour to the work the officers have done. And I have one final question, which is what liaison and cooperation has happened at the political level between our councils and councils across Oxfordshire to ensure there's free flow of information, cooperation, honesty, you know, facts are exchanging hands, so that what is going forward is truthful, is reliable, and is in the best interests of our residents.
Thank you. Those are all really good points, and like I could probably speak forever on this. I think, as David said, for all the reasons David said, that this is the best option for our area, and I'm very proud of it. I'm quite happy to put my face on it, but I don't think that would actually do anything to sell it to probably what's going to be an AI filter. I think that will probably be the first filter through. But we have worked over the months with officers, but politically, as you say, with leaders and members across Oxfordshire and West Berkshire. We have been to so many meetings, I cannot remember how many, but discussing everything from the outset, from the sort of a month or so after the white paper came out. We've had very strong engagement, and as we said in the introduction, this proposal is unique because it is the only proposal that is being supported by more than one council. And I think that is the critical thing, that we are a cooperative proposal. We aren't sort of going it alone and just saying this is the best for us. We have worked across the area to make sure that we are proposing, I think, what we think is the best option as rural specialists, in the case of Ridgeway, for our residents, for our communities, and for our businesses. So I think, yeah, that's sort of testament to the fact that we have worked politically over the months, over the year pretty much now, to get where we are today. And as you said, we can pretty it up.
David, go ahead.
Some feedback from a parish council. We did a thing in Beckley, which was organised by parish councils, the ones who were involved in the Oxford land grab, and the three council leaders. I was there representing this proposal, but one of the councillors, and I've had this fed back to me from another councillor who was there, was Liz Leffman did the best presentation, was the most polished, standard, and most confident, but there was little substance. That I sounded hesitant and questioning and less confident, but there was more substance in what I was saying. And I think in terms of what we've put together here, that there is a division between what officers do and what we do. What we do is set the strategy and the policy and say, this is what we want delivering for those three reasons that we came up with. And the nuts and bolts of what's in here is all down to officers. And you wouldn't expect us to try and design an adult social care system or whatever else. But the oversight that's come from council leaders and engaging with our own cabinets and with our own political groups has ensured that this has stayed coherent throughout. And that we thought we went to a lot of meetings, but I think Adriana and Suzanne and Nick, there's a monitoring officers group, there's a section 151 officers group that have put together all of the different proposals of it to make sure that it is coherent, even though it's coming from 5 different councils.
Thanks, David. Okay, I had Kat, I had Ian, I think, for more comments, and I had Andy as well. So,
Chair, sorry to interrupt you, but I
was gonna
think this
say.
is the time we vote to extend by half an hour, just to cover you all.
let's crack on and vote to extend. Hopefully, we won't need to. So, I would like to propose that we extend beyond the guillotine for an additional 30 minutes. Do councillors agree to extend? Great. Thanks, Candida. Councillor Foxall, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to follow up on your point about the visual aesthetics of this, because it might seem superficial, but I think it is really important. Councillor Rain, you talked about writing grants, so you've got to tell them what they want to hear.
Right.
We do have to be super conscious that this is going to be, at best, looked at by civil servants who've got lots. Councillor Thomas, you mentioned putting it through a AI filter. Have you put this through AI to see what comes out? Perhaps you should.
Yes, I'm not sure if it has been. I'm sure officers probably have done that already, because I'm not really an AI aficionado, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately. But it has been recognised that that is probably the way to go. So I'm sure it has been done, and if not, we can do it.
But to go back to the aesthetics, I would follow up whether or not you want to put your faces on it. I think you actually have to put a face on the geography of this. The cover doesn't have, it just has two shapes. There's no identifying geography. This isn't Cornwall. There's no identifying geography. I would suggest, respectfully, you probably need to identify the places that these civil servants might have heard of. Didcot, Oxford, this stuff. Possibly Whitney, if you want to balance it out. Henley, yeah. The M4, the M4, the M40, just to instantly tell these people where we are and what this is all about. Because if you think of the kind of big Labour places, you do have people like Andy Burnham, Sadiq Khan. They are the faces of big places, and I kind of agree that Councillor Leffman is going to be known to government. Councillor Brown is known to government. And so we do need to put faces and identifiable features. And I think just identifying, literally, they will have heard of Didcot because they've been there on trains. They'll have heard of Bicester because they've been shopping there. Everyone's heard of Oxford. So I think just it feels superficial and uncomfortable for us, but I think that is what we have to do if we want this to succeed. And that's the ultimate question.
I wasn't trying to trivialise anything at all.
Well, the Cullen maybe as well.
Yeah, they definitely have Cullen.
Pity we don't have the cooling towers anymore.
Yeah, I wasn't saying it was superficial. And as Adriana said, we are going to be reworking the design. So yes, I take your point, and yeah, we can look into that.
Thank you. Was there anything further, Councillor Foxall?
No, thank you.
Sure. Ian Snowden, you go ahead. And then
Keep adding to it.
I know you do. Yes.
But I just to answer, I mean, Councillor Cook there, it's amazing. We've been talking all night about how we haven't got all the figures in place and so forth, but we're supposed to believe that we know the figure that the next shadow authority is going to use for council tax, which is a bit. So for once, so I agree with Councillor Thomas, who agrees that OCC is Oxford-centric. I agree with you.
100%.
I do disagree with you though when you said about unknown risk like SEND provisions. Well, the county council clearly does know how many SEND children there are in the county in their options. So that's not.
Know how many there'll be in 2 years' time.
A lot better guess than working out new councils. But anyway, my other point I'm going to, and I want to make a recommendation on this really, but I'm very disappointed. I've spoken to Councillor Ruin about this, about the lack of democracy on this. We're getting a councillor for every 5,200 residents, and West Berkshire are getting a councillor for every just over 4,000. So they're getting over-representation. And I know nothing on this is supposed to be easy. So why could we not? The Shadow Authority is not going to be fixing potholes in divisions and so forth. So I think the leaders should go back to the West Berkshire team and say, you're going to have to mix some of your smaller divisions into one division so that there's fair representation for the whole of the Ridgeway. I know Councillor Rain said that they're worried that South and Vale will gang up on them. We're going to be one unitary. Surely they can trust us enough to play nicely. I just feel 20% is over representation for them. As I said, it's a shadow authority. We're electing people on, so it's not like they're going to. If one councillor has to represent 2 areas in West Berkshire just to make the numbers right, then so be it. As far as I'm concerned, it's more important that we get democracy.
Yeah. Can I was just
Yeah,
thinking,
go ahead.
So democracy is incredibly important, and when the figures came through, I think initially for the numbers of members, we had already pushed back. I know Councillor Rain definitely did, about the share between the 3 councils or the 3 existing councils. I am happy that we have smaller footprint and we're keeping to the government guidelines of having less than 100, or it's up to 100. I can't remember exactly how they phrase it, but basically it's 100 residents, 100 members over that area. Obviously, Oxfordshire, if it was a one unitary authority, if you had 100 there, it would be a bit, members would be a bit sparse on the ground, really. So then there's that question, the county, I believe, that are we going to have 100, or are we going to have 138, or how many are we going to have? It's and getting back to the point about how we look to government, it is important that we, I think, sort of stick to their criteria as much as possible. We're not. I don't want to be like completely going against the grain and saying, oh no, we're going to change the rule here because it's we can't make it work any other way. So we have proposed the sensible size, as Councillor Rain said, and because of that, it fits with the guidelines that the government is setting down. So democracy is important.
Chair, just talking about one Oxfordshire, that's different. I'm talking about just the Ridgeway. If we're allowed 100 councillors, that's fine. But can we make it so it's 5,000 residents per councillor rather than 4,000 for them? That I don't know what one Oxfordshire is doing.
What we don't want to do, and Nick is probably going to jump in because he did the actual numbers. The question is this good enough to get the shadow authority up and running? Because I'm sure that there will be a boundary review fairly shortly after the council is set up. Both West Berkshire and Oxfordshire have just had a boundary review. Just to show how coherent the boundary commission is, it came out with different numbers in the different authorities. The question is what we're proposing good enough to get this up and running? Nothing is going to be perfect. If we want to make all the divisions pretty much the same, then we're going to have to start redrawing boundaries.
No, they mix up there. The shadow authority, I get when you form force council, the shadow authority, they'll have to work out a really more balanced, and that's fine. But for the shadow authority, you're just really getting councillors to represent that many people in that area. Then it's not to get them to do potholes and so forth. So you can just have a certain amount of councillors. If West Berkshire have got 4,000 per one, then join 2 together and have an 8,000 one, so that reduces the number of councillors they have.
Sorry, Councillor, so you're saying they just need to allocate numbers on a proportional basis because they're not going to be elected to particular divisions when the shadow authority.
Yeah, they are going to be. The shadow authority is going to be elected on the day when our elections should happen.
To represent divisions that are.
So if you want to change if you want to make all the divisions the same, then you will have to redraw boundaries.
No, I don't want to make them the same. I just want to make representation more equal. So
yeah, but the only way you can do that is to redraw boundaries. And we are not the Boundary Commission, and the Boundary Commission has a very long list of things that it's one of the weaknesses in the Greater Oxford proposal that they are looking to divvy up in that way. You can't do it on what you're suggesting, what Councillor Snowden is suggesting, is redrawing the boundaries.
I'm not at all. I'm saying to use 2 divisions and have 1 councillor in West Berkshire to make the numbers equal.
So you're saying pick and choose random divisions?
No, let West Berkshire, they're 2 smallest divisions combined for 1 councillor, and do that until it's even, so everyone has an equal
So
representation.
combined, that is changing the boundaries.
Let's go to Nick Bennett, who may be able to provide legal advice on whether we can merge divisions for the unitary.
The smallest ones would not be next to each other.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Sorry, Chair. I'm struggling to hear then, sorry. Whatever the aspirations of...
Thank you. Sorry, Nick, I'm just asking members to pipe down. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I understand Councillor Snowdon's aspirations, and you mentioned them at the meeting before, but to be clear, they simply, it's not lawfully possible to go through a boundary review at the moment. Apart from anything else, the local government, the Boundary Commission for England is operating in a different way over the next 2 years whilst LGR is going on, because they're going to have a workload for the new authorities, and they're preparing their workload to react to the new authorities' creation. The other thing is that actually West Berkshire had a boundary review less than 3 years ago, I think about 2 years ago. So many of those boundaries are already fixed after a boundary review of a unitary level representation. So it is not possible to do what you're asking for, Councillor Snowdon. What we can do is what we have done here is ask that certain wards in West Berkshire give up their seats, which they've agreed to do after discussion at a leader level, and to set ours at the highest level we can while still being legally compliant, because there is a fundamental need in order for this to get accepted at the Secretary of State level, that it complies with certain tests. And one of those tests is, does it have less than 100 councillors, which Councillor Thomas was mentioning a minute ago. This does deliver that. It maintains the current layout and structure of wards that exists at the moment, and it provides as close a representation, as balanced representation as it is possible to do under the current legal scenario. We can't get a new boundary review. It is not possible. There's no one to do it. It can't happen. So I'm afraid, Chair, whilst I understand the wish to create as equal a representation as we can, and I absolutely endorse it normally, and have carried out a number of reviews in other councils in the past, it isn't possible in this circumstance. So I think, Chair, you're better, especially with the time being what it is, directing yourself to other matters, I would suggest.
Chair, can you not then turn it on its head then? Can not the divisions with the largest populations in South and Vale have an extra councillor to make it even?
I think the discussion's
that's
been
the same
had,
boundary.
and we've had the advice from the monitoring officer. I don't think there's much point thrashing it out any further. I think we've had the discussion. That would be my view. But the point is noted. The point is noted. It's important to have. Yeah.
And can I just say,
go on, Bethia.
If we were to do the suggestion Councillor Snowden did, so let's pick the biggest division or whatever in South, the biggest one in Vale.
Ian, please go on.
And add an extra member. That's not democracy, because then we're artificially selecting a unit to have more representation than all of the other units. I think what we've done and what Nick has really worked very hard on is to level the playing field. As we said, it's not perfect, but it is the best we can do in the situation.
Okay.
Okay, you want to move on. I'm quite happy to move on. I mean, West Berkshire are going to get a bigger.
Yeah, anyway. Thank you. Members, it's now 10 minutes past 9. So does anyone, Peter, go ahead.
So thank you. I put the documents through AI this afternoon for the meeting. And I'm sorry I missed on council last week. I was calling at the time. And I asked it to say which it felt was the best option from the papers in this deck. And it said the 2 unitary was the best option. And then I put in the 1 Oxfordshire proposal and asked it to reevaluate. And after it reevaluated against all the stuff that 1 Oxfordshire came back, it said the 1 Oxfordshire was the best option. So I don't mind us putting this in, but I just wanted to know, when you said that all 5 councils support the 2 unitary, do they prefer the 2 unitary, or they just support? So I think there's quite a big difference.
This one has gone. Do you like to?
Yeah.
And this one has gone to 3 councils already who have supported that. It's going to 2 more this week. So I think uniquely we can say yes, our councils are supporting it.
So yes, but support rather than prefer. So they support us submitting this proposal.
No, the proposal. Yeah,
the proposal is all of the councils.
Yeah.
It's not just us. It's not just South. It's not just West Berkshire. It is all of the councils that are involved in the geography, apart from Oxford, which has its own proposal.
Sure. So I just think that it possibly is misleading, this document, because if you run the figures, the One Oxfordshire model gives the best net benefit, the fastest payback period, the lowest transition cost, greatest annual savings, and the best benefit by year 5, whilst also meeting government criteria, providing strong service continuity.
Yeah. Can I just reiterate the point that there's one Oxfordshire?
Yeah.
And what we're proposing is the equivalent footprint of Oxfordshire.
Yeah.
With West Berkshire. And in combination, that is what makes the difference.
Sure. Sure. And then we've talked about it being misleading before. So and the other point I wanted
David, I'm sorry, Peter, just a second, because I think
sure.
Yeah, you're saying that your AI program has come out with that. I'm going to speak up for the accountancy profession.
Yeah.
This has been reviewed by PricewaterhouseCoopers, who come up with different numbers to what.
So, but that's because you asked a different question. So the question you asked was, if you suppose that West Berkshire was lumped together with Oxfordshire, what would it come up with? Which I think is different to the reality, because I don't believe that what Oxfordshire have been talking to West Berkshire at all. So it's not a valid option. I think it's so that's why I find it a bit misleading.
What we have done is completely rapid. So
I think the word misleading is loaded.
Yeah. I think
yeah. So can I ask the second question?
Go ahead.
So in terms of business growth, so the exam question was to present a proposal that focused on business growth. And I just wondered what feedback businesses have given to this unitary one, and what your kind of proposal for business growth was.
I think it's impossible to say what business says, because there isn't one voice for business. There are different types of, and I've had quite long conversations with the chief executive at Melton Park, who favoured, certainly the last time I spoke to him, was favouring the One Oxfordshire, but that was because he felt that he would be cut off from Oxford. And I can reassure everybody in this room, we're not going to build a wall. And it's also what drives Melton Park is not the city of Oxford, it's Oxford University. It's spin out businesses coming from Oxford University.
Yeah, I'm aware of Melton Park, it's in the area.
And Oxford University has a global footprint. It doesn't just operate within one geography. It spins businesses out to everywhere. So, but that is only one sector that we're talking about. And there's been a lot of concentration on the technology sector and the innovation sector. That employs about 10% of the people in our districts. Most of the businesses, or most people, are employed by small businesses that operate within the district. And what suits them are, can we develop skills, which currently we're not, and can they get the services that they need?
Can we get the buses to Abingdon and Whitney College?
Can they get a bus after 9 o'clock back to Didcot? Yeah, it's so businesses are looking for different things, and I think that's one of the things that's annoyed me during this process is people have talked about business as if it's all university spin-out science and technology businesses, and that is a very small part of our economy. It might be the sexy bit, and it might be the bit that potentially could massively grow. I suspect it's not going to massively grow within our geography.
So out of
because there are
497 pages, there are only 15 references to business, and 5 of those are on the table. So, you know,
That's quite interesting, given the conversation at our council meeting.
Thanks for that, Peter.
That's okay, thanks.
It's out of 497 pages, 15 references
Yeah, to business.
to the word business.
Or business growth.
Okay.
There's 363 references to growth.
Say growth, but not business growth.
Okay. So we're running out of time. Councillor Foxall, then Councillor Cook, and then we'll sum up. No, not Mandy. Thank you. Kat, go ahead.
Just super quickly, with absolutely no intention to relitigate the discussions we had at both of our councils last week. But we've just heard from the chair of West Berkshire Scrutiny that they have also agreed to the additional line about climate change this evening. So I think it is important, given that this meeting was scheduled in order to follow up from the council, that discussion has been had at West Berkshire this evening, because they weren't given a chance to provide amendments. I think my understanding is to their council meeting motions last week.
Very quickly, I think we agreed to that amendment at council, where Councillor Foxall very clearly pointed out that there was an awful lot of reference to growth, and by that we did assume it was business growth.
Well, that's Councillor Stevens's question, not mine.
Yes, I know, but I mean, when you say growth, it's implied, I think. But yes, I think that's it's a useful addition. Thank you, Kat, and we will, I'm sure, consider it when it comes to cabinet.
And I discussed it with the leader of West Berkshire this afternoon.
Members, I think we really do need to move on, otherwise we're not going to get through the recommendations. We've given this the best part of an hour and a half to 2 hours of debate now. So I think with your agreement, we'll move on to recommendations and a motion. So what I'm looking for is a motion. The recommendations, you can read them in the report on page 41. We're asked to note that since the statutory invitation to all councils in two-tier authorities, significant work has been undertaken by all Oxfordshire councils, and that South and Vale officers have engaged with officers across Oxfordshire and West Berkshire. We're asked to note and support the submission of a full proposal for a 2 unitary model based on 1 new unitary council covering the existing boundaries of South Vale and West Berks, with the working title of Ridgeway, and a 2nd new unitary covering the entire existing boundaries of Cherwell and West and Oxford City Council, and that will have the working title of Oxford and Shires. We're asked to note that 2 other proposals will be submitted, one by Oxfordshire County Council, the One Oxfordshire proposal, and one from Oxford City Council covering Oxfordshire and West Berkshire areas. And we're also asked to note that should Cabinet agree to submit the full proposal for this 2 unitary model, Cherwell, South, Vale and West will submit the full proposal directly to government in line with the invitation letter that was sent out to Oxfordshire. So those are the recommendations. We've had a discussion, and a number of recommendations have been made by this committee. So shall we start with a motion? Or do we go through the recommendations of the committee? Because we've got a recommendation that the amendment proposed at full councils in South and Vale last week and just agreed by the West Berkshire Scrutiny Committee pertaining to mention of climate and nature recovery in the vision statement be added. We had a recommendation, I believe it was a recommendation relating to reference to business. Did you want to make that as a recommendation, Peter, to enhance?
So I
was that simply a statement?
So it's a statement.
Okay. We had from Judy Roberts recommendations and issues around fire and rescue in particular, which are being taken forward. So just to confirm that those will be incorporated and taken forward. We had some recommendations around looking at the design and appearance of the proposal, increasing the sense of place and people.
Could I just make one comment there?
Go on, Ron, yes.
Your list of towns didn't include the main town for the unitary authority, Newbury.
I couldn't see it on the map, which I think is probably significant. So yeah, chuck that in. Yeah. So increased sense of place and people. We had a recommendation from Councillor Gregory relating to page 8 and the table on financial resilience. And some clarification was requested around the figures and clearer splitting out, if possible, or at least clarification on the figures provided around financial resilience to make it clear that those include West Oxfordshire in the One Oxfordshire proposal. Councillor Snowden mentioned lack of democracy, but we went through that, and I think, unfortunately, the advice of the monitoring officer is that there's probably nothing there for us to do.
Chair, might I mention the rural specialist comment as well, that
thank you.
add that.
Rural specialists
And the exec summary.
in the exec summary from Councillor Foxall.
I think you also said West Oxfordshire when you meant West Berkshire.
Sorry, I apologise.
Do we want all of those to be separated out?
The recommendations?
Well, no, on the table 8, you've got 3 lots all lumped together.
Yeah.
So you've got
but then
you've got the One Oxfordshire with West Berkshire, but you've also got the separate ones for the 2 UA, and I don't know whether you want to try and do the same for the 3 UA, whether that's available in their document.
Adriana's happy to provide a visual breakdown.
Yeah, so that rather than have to combine, put them as separate so that you can see each council.
Yep. Fine. Can members content with that? Individual breakdown to make it clear the financial resilience modelling.
Yeah.
And additional clarification, particularly in the paragraph preceding that table on page 8. Just to avoid any misleading information, potential to mislead. Are we content with those recommendations? Candida, would you like to read them out to us?
No, that's fine. It's all written in there, and unless
we've heard. Right. So, do we have a proposer to propose the recommendations with the recommendations in the report with these comments from this committee this evening? Councillor Foxall proposing. Yes, is there a seconder? I saw your hand go up first, Andy Cook, so I'll take you as the seconder. Thank you.
You can propose if you like. I still want my face on that cover.
We've got a proposal that has now been seconded. Can we all vote on the proposal? Submit. Thank you very much. Not you. Oh, so that was abstain. Was that an abstention or was it an against? Against. Were there any abstentions or against? No. All in favour, apart from Councillor Snowden, who's against. Have we done it?
Right.
Thank you very much indeed to everybody for coming this evening. It's been a long old slog, and thank you to all the officers who joined us. And thank you, David and Bethia, and a huge thank you to Adriana and Candida for your help tonight and for all the work you've done on this proposal as well, Adriana.
This is
And
the
thanks
urgent
for
ask if we have to
Thanks
find
for your help. We're not offline, we're still online.